Yo, people, welcome back to another stream of Two Up Front. And yeah, no, today, man, special guest, man, decided to do something a little bit different. As you can see, I normally say it's your host Ace, and I'm with Major, but today it's not Major, man. I'm with my good friend Abdul, man. How are you doing, Abdul? Welcome to the stream, bro.
Yeah, doing very well, man. How are you?
Nah, I'm doing very good, bro. I guess just a little bit of background because obviously we're both Arsenal fans, and it was actually quite funny because before we went live, I was speaking to my little brother, and I was like, me and this guy, we went to the same school, and now he's halfway across the world. But you know what still unites us? We're still Arsenal fans, man. We said, and so even if you're all the way across the world, and so we still support the same club. So yeah, I said that this has been a long time coming to just discuss Arsenal so far. We normally have regular chats in the group chat. So we said, hey man, let's bring it live and just have the conversation in front of other people and that's our like-minded Arsenal fans and kind of just see how it goes. But yeah, bro, I don't know if you have any other further thoughts to that.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. It was many moons ago where we went to school together. But yeah, no, for sure. Like as in Arsenal through and through. And if you didn't know, watching football here, obviously on the other side of the world in Australia, is an extreme sport to say the least, man. The early mornings, the late nights, it's tough. It's tough. But to be honest, man, I wouldn't do it for any other club. So yeah, no, it's what unites us, which is correct. So yeah, looking
No,
forward to it, man.
no, amazing, man. So now it should be a good stream. But just for the people, it's actually quite funny because like the typical live stream you do, majors usually doing the hosting. So this is my first time hosting a little bit, but I said I have to make sure I remember to do the YouTubeness. Just if you're watching it live, if you're watching it later, like please don't forget to leave a like. Leave your comments, give your thoughts, because again, it helps the algorithm. So we appreciate all of that. So now, man, definitely, hopefully, there's people here with us too. Please drop any comments, any agreements, disagreements, and it should make for a good stream. But that being said, also for the people, just a little overview of what to expect today. So our plan actually is to kind of touch on the recent performances, recent results when it comes to the Europe this week of Atletico Madrid, when it goes back to our previous Premier League game, but then also to look forward a little bit because yeah, man, I was saying it in the stream yesterday with Major that only certain teams give me sleepless nights, man, when it comes to like just the anti-Arsenal, and Palace are up there in one of those teams. So yeah, definitely a little preview into that. And then I thought it'd be good to then kind of take it back a little bit and just do a little tier list. If we kind of look at all the main players in the squad this season, kind of give our thoughts and how well they've done, who needs to give more. That's fine, and just kind of just like and anything in between that comes to mind as well, man. So nah, hopefully should make for a good conversation. Good conversation. But yeah, bro, unless you have any thoughts that we can dive right into it.
Nah, we can dig in, man. Sure, let's do it.
Lovely. Like I was actually saying it that I actually caught a lot of the Atletico Madrid match if we start there because that's the more recent one. I actually caught a lot of it in the highlights, and that game was so funny because as I was saying that we're in the group chats and saying I was out and I saw the group chats. I saw the guys that they weren't happy with this performance. And then I put my phone away. I picked it back up and I saw that we were 4-0 up. I said, "Oh, what happened? What happened in between the complaints and the goals?" So I was hoping that you could maybe fill me in a little bit and maybe kind of start there when it comes to just like maybe just the
Yeah,
underlying kind of as good as everything has been, us being top of the table, there's still underlying conversation sometimes when it comes to Arsenal. So I thought we can kind of go in it from there, man. So yeah,
for
what's your
sure,
take on that?
for sure. Yeah, no. So the Atletico game was interesting. I mean, for me personally, I actually think we had a decent first half. You have to remember we're coming up against a Diego Simeone team, so there's always some sort of expectation or some sort of way Diego is going to obviously build up. So I think that was always going to be some sort of a narrative there. Now, I believe we had the best of the chances to begin with. I think Eze had popped through Saka on one occasion. That one didn't come through. I think Saka puts the ball across for for Martinelli, which that goal ended up being offside actually. So I think we actually had the kind of the better of the half, to be honest with you. I just think we couldn't finish our chances. I think as in and kind of even going back to some of the players are like I still think Eze was trying to get into the game. He actually had that shot that cannon off the crossbar as well. Gyökeres, I think, was doing a lot of running at the time as well. So it was a lot of to and fro. I don't really remember anything from Atleti in that first half. I think
I don't think there was. I was watching it back in the highlights, and I think even at halftime they hadn't had a shot on target, or they had their first one, something like that. Like
yeah,
it was almost nothing from them for the first half, also. So yeah,
for
that's
sure,
why
for
I'm not
sure.
surprised you
And I
don't
think
remember.
it was just yeah, and I think it was just the goal that we were after, man. I think there were some hairy moments. I think Lewis Kelly almost gave away a pen. That might have been the second half actually, but like there was a little bit of sloppy play here and there, but on the whole, I think in that first half, I think we controlled the ball. We actually controlled the territory as well. We were just waiting for that goal.
So where do you kind of stand on that? Because I think the reason why that game was so interesting to me, and even because I guess we can kind of mesh it in with the like I guess thoughts from the Fulham game also, because I think it's that underlying aspect when it comes to Arsenal where there's a general I guess belief sometimes that as much as we control the XG, we control the pitch, we control the tilt and all that kind of stuff, we don't create enough clear cut chances in games. Where do you kind of stand in that debate? Do you think that it's fair when people say that, or do you also feel like maybe like yeah, I guess I'm curious to see where your kind of stance is when it comes to that. Do you feel like we're too reliant when it comes to maybe, for example, like in the Fulham game, the match before that, where it looked like if it wasn't for the set piece goal, we just weren't going to create. And it's like it's all nice when the set piece goals are going in, but when the set piece goals stop going in, that's when again people then start looking at the creation throughout the actual match. So what's your take on that? I guess.
Look, I have to agree with you wholeheartedly. I think the creation has always been the issue. I think when we were clamoring for a striker, yeah, we end up getting Victor Gyökeres, which again I think we will definitely be going into him. But like I think it's always been that particular issue, and especially when you have a player like Eze who no doubt is a talent, but he still needs to settle into the team. We haven't had Odegaard, for a big chunk of the season as well. So that's always been an issue. But I also think that when you're looking at the season as a whole, right? Like we we are the field tilt champions. I've heard that term before. So like we're always pushing teams back and whatnot. And I think it's still kind of early, I would say, because I want to see how the team plays up, because I think when you've got players like Saka and you've got players like Madueke who still to come back, Odegaard still to come back. I think that there's still scope there for creation to go through the roof. But I still have to agree with you. I think that there is a creativity issue. But then, as you can see in this Atleti game, with the second half,
Yeah.
we saw a
And I
couple of things,
think
man. So
and I think that's the funny thing as well. Like that tends to be what happens in our game so far this season, where it's like we get that first maybe set piece goal, the other team then opens up a little bit more, and maybe they also take a bit more risk, and then it seems like we then also kind of loosen up a bit more, and we start to flow much better than maybe we were up to that point. It's something I've seen kind of happen in a couple of games this season so far. So yeah, there definitely is an element of the. I think for my kind of take on it is that I have no problems. Like sometimes when people do the whole the Arsenal that used to love the tiki taka, and now look at you guys are relying on the set piece. When the rivals do that, they do what they do in it to try to get under your skin. But me, I think we've spoken about this, I think offline as well, where I remember those Arsenal teams, and as great as the tiki taka was, it was very frustrating going to a cold, rainy night in Stoke, and these big men just brushing our technical players onto the ground. So it's so nice that we have a physically dominant team now, where one thing is the what's it called is that like we were scoring many set pieces, but like understand there's two elements of it. Like you have the physical profiles that makes you such a dangerous threat that there are multiple players that have to be picked up to stop the goals. But then you also have the technical ability that we also have with these physical monsters as well. That like that balance. If you get me loads of set piece goals a season, I'm completely happy with that, man. But then it's the other side of, like we say, man, like during open play, we can't also just play for the set piece. Like we need to also have answers when that's like we know what that's not Fulham are gonna do because they've done it to us a couple seasons in a row before and our last game where so I just wanted to get the point and just kind of learn from the mistakes of the past. We know when we get to the Palace preview what Palace are gonna do to us. But it's like we keep going there and then just kind of falling into the same trap of horseshoe, horseshoe, horseshoe. And then if it's not a set piece, we don't score. I feel like that's the only kind of concern when I look at how good this team is. And I say, like, if there's any kind of chance that we don't go on to win a major this season, when I look at the flaws that the other kind of title contenders have also, it's definitely that is the one bit that it kind of also, like you say, like it feels like it's also in our hands a bit. Because yeah, you look at the Maduekis, you look at players to come back and you say, Arteta, if you give these guys a license, there's no reason why they shouldn't. But it's Arteta. And it's like that element of like knowing who your manager is. And I think with Arteta now, he's got to the point where I've seen him in so many seasons now to say that, you know, when you kind of see that lean of whether your manager will go for the safe option or he'll go for the risky option. And I feel like he will always kind of tend to kind of go to the safe option, which sometimes it'll sound like the City game. Like it drives me crazy because I say you've gone. This is not the game for you to be this reserved and scared. And there's other
Definitely
times
not.
where it's not like it's like you're going Atletico Madrid. This kind of game, I don't care if the XG wasn't the greatest. Atletico, we knew what they were going to do to us too, and we still managed to get the 4 goals. It almost feels like that's also being taken for granted on the other side too of how dominant and defensive we are. Like, does that make sense? But yeah, I said a lot of stuff there, but yeah, just kind of grabbing anything that yeah.
Yeah. No. I think one thing I'll kind of add to that is I still think that so just kind of unpicking from what you said. When you have a team that dominate the ball as much as we do, right? The opponent always has to react. So I think what we're starting to see is the opponent reacting in a way where it forces them back. And then we have to beat the 2 bags and 4, at the end of the day. So I think that tactically, like as in, is it a case where could we step back a little bit and let the team come so we can go again, like as in, I think we can show that we're a good counter attack team. But then, like I think going back to your point, like as in that you have Miles Lewis-Skelly picks up the ball, beats 5 players, slips into Martinelli, first time finish. Like as in that, this is what that team is capable of, man. Like as in, we have multifaceted players that have multiple skills, can play in multiple positions. It's just about finding that balance. I think, again, just going back to those conversations that me and you had, like as in during those times of Wenger, I used to love Wenger ball, but my problem was that if we would go away, to a top 6 team or a team that was a little bit physical, we wouldn't be able to cope with that. But I think slowly but surely the balance, we're finding that balance now, where we have the players, that if we, I mean, take the Newcastle game. Newcastle's one of the most physical teams. We can go toe to toe with them. But I think if it's a football match rather than a fight, I think we can play as well. So it's one of those ones we have to get that balance right. But I think it always goes back to that creativity. To be honest with you, I think we can control what we're in control of. We can't really control what the other team does. No one expected City, to fall into a back 5. Take Haaland off for a defender. I'm just paraphrasing, but I don't know if it was a midfielder or a defender. But
Yeah.
that's my point. Like no one expected Man City to do that, but you've heard it. John Stones saying, "Yeah, we had to do that because we had to react." No one can say that. So, look, at the end of the day, we're like I said, we're the field tour champions. But
Bro.
I think we also have to make it count as well, man.
No, 100%, 100%. And yeah, I feel like that is pretty much like the best way to kind of put it. Where like we also have to. It's funny though, because I don't know how you feel about this. There is also an element of like when I see like the media now, it's like Arsenal, like a title. That's not like it's basically just like how like heavily we're also being promoted as like the team to kind of go for like the title. Can Arsenal win the Champions League? Can Arsenal win the Premier League? And there's still that
Mm.
element of me that's always like a wow. Like I remember the days where I didn't think we would be anywhere near this kind of field again. So it feels weird when it's like a like there's that kind of doubt also in my head where it's like, is this team actually good enough to actually get over the line? Like that bit of it still kind of gets me. I don't know whether you've kind of become accustomed to just how good a team is now. Because I still struggle with it, I guess. Because I guess
Yeah,
because
it's
the best way to kind of put it is like even like we say like this game against Atletico, we have our criticism. It could have been better. We beat Atletico Madrid 4-0 in Europe. That's like have you seen the style of like how we haven't conceded a goal at home under Arteta in Europe or something? Like it's ridiculous. Like this the standards and heights that the team is reaching.
Yeah, I think the actual stat is like in the group games and the
Mm,
league phase, like we actually at home we haven't conceded. I think we scored like 26 or something along those lines. Yeah, look, I think there's a reason why the bookies are saying Arsenal are favourites. Because they can see what they're seeing, and I think Arsenal are hypercritical because I think we've been burned, man. Like in a sense, like we've seen title races where we've led it for ages, man, and not come out with the victory, man. So it's one of those ones where look, I'm all right with it because I think you know it's time now. Like as in and so this is why like fans have gripes with the manager. Like I have a gripe with the manager because I think he's a very talented manager. Like I've never ever said he's not a talented manager, but I think the question is, do you have the minerals to go all the way, go that one step further? Because I think he has the team now. He has the squad. Last season we ran into issues. With injuries and whatnot. He's obviously addressed that with the squad depth. So it's one of those. I'm comfortable now because I believe that this team is capable of winning the league. You're looking around at the rivals. You know, it, they're obviously running into their own issues, but I think we've got an opportunity, to shut some fans up, man. I think that talk comes because we're the pretenders, man. So we got to stop pretending. We got to start going, man. So I think look again. That's what I'll. We can go further into that because I think there's other discussions to be had, man.
No, definitely. And like you said, that this team is capable of winning the league, but is this team capable of beating Palace this weekend? I think that's the next thing I think we need to kind of go into because, like you say, man, like the squad that Arteta has at his disposal, he can actually has so many different options. And then the question is like, do you think he has the answers to what Palace are going to pose to us this weekend when it comes to again, like we say, because Fulham as well, and as great as it was, I was happy to get out there with the 3 points. The understand that set piece goal doesn't go in, it's probably a draw and we drop points in that game again. So it's like sometimes with football too, you can look at the result and be happy, but you can also look at the understand like how sustainable is this? Like, are we also just waiting for another? Because it's happened to us in every season in the last three, or understand like at some point where it's like again, the games like this where we just expect that we'll win, and then these are the teams that tend to really shock us when it comes to like I guess us not being able to kind of break them down in the end. So what's your kind of take on I guess how confident are you going into this Palace game this weekend?
Well, let's be real. Like in the last couple of seasons, it's been the West Hams and the Villas and the Fulhams, that have tripped us up on the way to the league. So I think we've been judged or judge is probably the wrong word, but I think we've always thought, oh, you know what, if we do well against the big sides, we should be comfortable winning the league and whatnot. I mean, if you count in the big side, or in the top six, traditional top six, I should say, there's only 5 teams. You know, how many other
Yeah.
teams are there to play? So like that's we should really be defining our play and kind of going for the title by beating these teams that we're supposed to beat. You know, because I think the way the big teams set up against us is to attack. They have to respect their badge. And and try to attack us. But these other teams, man, they know that they don't have the squad, they don't have the names and the players. So how are they going to set up? They're going to set up to to defend and to frustrate. So before I go into the Palace game, I think obviously the Fulham game was interesting because I think coming off the international break as well, I think we struggled a little bit. Gabriel, was a little bit sloppy. I think a lot of the players were sloppy, especially in that first half. But I think we huffed and puffed, but one thing I would say is that, look, we win that game 1-0, and it comes from a set piece. But Fulham didn't give us anything, so you're probably right. It probably does end in a draw. But we were probing, and I think Saka had an amazing second half, where he tried to take things, in his own hands, and I think he's starting to have that particular season. I think we were robbed of it last season when he picked up the hamstring injury, but he's starting to take games by the scruff of the neck. He did it against Atleti as well. And I think those are the players, and those are the kind of the jewels in the team that we need to rely on, because those are the guys that are gonna try and make something happen. So moving to this Palace game, I think it's going to be similar to the Fulham game. They set up on the back five, but I think they flow well. I think I read somewhere that they have the best XG. So it's not like they're sitting on sitting on their bums. They're not doing anything. Like they actually create chances. Matea's in good form. He scored a hat trick recently. I think in the last game against Bournemouth actually. So they're a tough opposition, but they're coming to the Emirates. Big pitch. And we should have the players to obviously sort it out. We should also have the confidence to obviously go through it. It's the Eberechi Eze derby. He's gonna have something to prove. So look, again, I can't not predict a win, because I think right now, like as in there's something higher going on, like as in and I'm seeing that in the games, man. So we just have to go there and show who we are, man.
No. I think it's definitely going to be a interesting one because, like you say, I feel like one thing about Fulham in that game too that I have to give Arsenal Arteta sometimes some kind of leeway when it comes to this creativity stuff is that Fulham literally just they had everyone in their half. Like even when we were building up, they didn't even say what they said. Have the ball and build up, because when you get to the midfield, when you get that's when we're gonna get active. And so it's like when you're also coming up against those kind of systems, then it's very difficult to break down. But again, when we say that, we have no excuses this year when it comes to the squad, when it comes to the manager. It's like these are the games where, and even one time where City and Liverpool in their pump, they had to play these mid-block teams sometimes, but they were just so dominant and so aggressive when it came to like how many goals they'd score in games that it just was never really a competition that blew them out of the water. Whereas with us, sometimes it feels like because we do where we gain in terms of the defensive solidity and just being like so ridiculous to break down is like we also don't sometimes feel like we take enough risks in these games where we're trying to be too safe as well, which then means that we don't offer enough to force these teams to sound like to break through whatever kind of defensive structure they have in place for us. Whereas sometimes it feels like even like looking at City this season as well, that's the concern with them too, where it's like if they can get their defense a decent place, and I feel like this race that we thought that maybe always between Liverpool, City are going to become a real problem because Haaland, all these teams can try to stop in the same way. If he's on fire, he's going to continue getting goals. It's on whether City
I
can
mean, look,
bring some defensive balance to their team. But yeah,
he's playing the best football of his life, and yeah, if you didn't think City were in it, yeah, think again, man, because that he's on fire, man. Barring injury to Haaland, I think City are way in it, So they're definitely someone, or they're definitely a team we need to look out for sure.
Yeah, and again, that just means that our point against Palace is not the end of the world, but it's like these points you can't then start having them kind of add up. So I'm with you though. I think I definitely do also predict a win for us in this game because I think we should still. And again, I would like to think too that the lessons of the past, because it's not like this is a shock to us now. when it comes to Fulham's and
Mm.
what's it called, Palaces. But they also know too that they give up set pieces. Then that's another way that we can break them down also. So it's good that we have that kind of tool in our arsenal. Like, so I feel like that being said,
Yeah,
I think it
I
should
think
be a good game. Yeah.
yeah. I also wanted to add as well, right? Like, so there's always a clamor for these set pieces. I think
Mm,
you also have to remember, like, as in why these set pieces are coming, and that usually is because we're pressuring the team.
mm,
We're pressuring the team. We're playing in their half of the pitch.
mm.
And we're forcing these balls to go out for set pieces. So in a sense, if we have the weapons and you're if you're good at something and it's causing you to win games, why not kind of rest on your laurels and make it happen?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the first thing. The second thing is that because of the way we play, and we force teams back, teams obviously have to react in a certain way. So again, it does go back to the creativity. But I think particularly in this Palace game, we should have the territory. Even though they're playing a back five, if we can control the middle of the pitch, that's going to force their teams back, and I think again we'll go into Victor Gyökeres in a little bit, but he's now scored 2 goals off the back of the Athletic game. He's going to be kind of purring. He's going to be a little bit more confident, a bit more of a spring in his step. So think of the front three and pushing their players back. I think that's what our system does, man. We push teams back into their shell. So they're sitting in a 5-3-2.
Yeah.
Like and or 5-4-1. Because they're scared of what we got.
You
And I
know, you
think
know.
I think that's
Okay.
testament to the squad. So, like I said, it's going to be an interesting game. But I think right now, it looks like we're just putting some wrongs right this season. We're winning at Newcastle, we didn't win there last season. Winning at West Ham, we didn't win last season. So winning against Fulham, we didn't do that last season. So we're just putting some wrongs right, and obviously Palace is to come.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's interesting that you say about like our system pushing teams back, because I guess when we speak about probably maybe like the squad, also we can go into a bit more. But I feel like that was also for me one of the benefits of bringing like a Gyökeres in, was the fact that we wanted to also avoid that a bit more, avoid that more also, because then it becomes harder to then break down these teams when they are penned back into their half, which I think is the downside of being the full tilt warrior sometimes, is that you then just congest, understand, that part of the pitch, and then if you don't have a physical specimen in the air, like you're just putting in crosses and center backs are just eating them all day long. Or there's enough bodies where you can't get shots off. So I feel like that balance between, which it maybe another question for you too, whether like you have, because I know that this was another conversation that we had in the summer of just like how adaptable Arteta would be in terms of like the fact that he brought in like a Gyökeres. Do you feel like we have become more transitional than we have been in previous seasons? Or you feel like it's still quite similar, or maybe just Gyökeres offers a different profile to Havertz? Like, how much do you think Arteta's actually adapted so far this year, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we have, become, slightly more transitional. I think you've seen a lot more forward balls. To be honest, I've seen a lot more longer balls up to Gyökeres. I think the in the Leeds game, I think Calafiori like as in pings one into Gyökeres where he obviously takes it on, beats a couple of defenders and gets his goal from there. So I think again. But what our superpower is pushing teams back. So that means that we haven't become a fully transitional team. We're still in the opponent's half and kind of trying to eat up that space on there. So at the moment, we're still kind of trying to find that balance, I would say. At the end of the day, we're still trying to make it work with Gyökeres. But I think someone like Eze, who's someone who's able to play in those tight spaces and play in between the lines, it is going to help that transition because he's a fast thinker, fast on the ball. It's just that he hasn't settled as of yet. So once he can get his once he can get his game up and his confidence up, especially in the Premier League, we'll start to see that transition, because I think he is a very very good transitional player. He likes to take the ball, he likes to carry. So but I think again, we have the players. I think it's just about whether Arteta is wanting that from the team. Does Lewis Skelly make that run at 0-0? Where he
Mm,
has there is a
mm,
risk of him losing the
mm.
ball in the middle, and then there's a counter. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, as in,
Yeah, yeah,
that comes from
yeah.
the manager. So I think it's one of those. We have the players, to become a transitional team. But it's whether that there's a set way to play. From 0-0 to 1-0. So that's probably what I would say to that. Again, I do think we are transitional, or have become slightly transitional. But I still think the way the team plays naturally, we're always going to be, like, as in penning back those teams, and kind of facing those lower mid blocks. So again, it's just about trying to find that balance, man.
No, no, definitely. And yeah, and again, this is though, like you say, these are definitely the games where we learn. We see how much we've actually learned from the previous seasons. Because yeah, again, Palace, we know what they're gonna do. So let's see how they respond. But that being said, before we kind of maybe go into like just maybe just a general overview of like the season so far and like the squad, is what is your score prediction then for this Palace game? Like what how do you actually see it playing out?
Well, we've been defending amazingly. So I can't see anyone scoring against us at the moment. So I don't want to jinx that, but I am predicting a clean sheet. Um, I think Palace are a tough team, and I think they'll be tough to break down. With the five back. Mark Ahey, Chris Richards. I forget the other brother at the back, but playing free at the back, Munoz. Like, as in high flying on the right side. So look, they're a tough team. I think they'll make it tough for us, but I reckon I'll probably predict a 2-0 win.
2-0. All right, cool. Yeah, I think on the stream yesterday I went for 2-1. I don't think I'm as confident as you that we're gonna keep another clean sheet. But yeah, nah, I would love to see it, man. And I don't know if you've seen like the
Hey,
little
listen,
rumblings
listen.
too
Hey,
on.
that I'm trying to go for that Chelsea record, man. Like, come on,
Do
man.
you
Like,
actually? What's
it's
your? Because
there,
yeah, I was
man.
thinking about that yesterday. Because well, I think at this stage they had considered one goal. We've considered three, which again, it's like it shows that that record is wild.
It's
15
it's,
all
it's look.
season.
Look.
Yeah.
It's a tough record. It's a tough record. But if there was a team to do it, like, look. I mean, we have an amazing goalkeeper. Our centre backs are world class. And our fullbacks. I mean, you're in Timber, man. We need
Nah,
to have a
listen, well,
segment
yeah,
on Euro
yeah,
Tim.
yeah.
Like,
Nah, listen, we're gonna
we'll
talk
get
about
there. We'll
him.
get there. We'll get there.
We'll
We'll
talk
get there.
about him.
We'll get there
We'll
for
talk
sure.
about him. But yeah, no, I think unless you have any kind of final thoughts on the Palace game, I feel like we can kind of maybe just get into like the squad and season so far. But yeah, so me, I say 2-1. I think it'll be a tight game, like you said. But yeah, I think Mateta, I feel like I think they have enough kind of tools to kind of hurt us on that transition also. And they're gonna give us a lot more threat going the other way than Fulham did. And yeah, so I wouldn't be shocked. But yeah, but like you say, our defensive record this season has almost become a joke, just like how solid and like this team is. Like the amount of X, like the XG that we're reducing teams to, like it's unheard of. So yeah, long may it continue.
For sure. For sure. For sure.
Cool, cool. That being said, I feel like the next thing that will be kind of good for us to kind of get into is I have this tier list with the different players, and I think it will just be a good thing for us to kind of just like quickly discuss, agree, disagree, just kind of how we kind of think that those players have, I guess, how their season is going so far, basically. So if you can see my screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. So yeah, let's get into it. And obviously, any Arsenal fans are in the comments. I watch this live, watch this later. Definitely let us know whether you agree, disagree with any of these. And so let us know maybe we're not giving someone enough credit for what they've kind of produced so far. But yeah, Abdul, I'm gonna let you kick it off. I don't know if you can see the picture is very, very small, but this looks like my guy Calafiori. Understand? Like I think this is a massive season for him, man, because last year like the injuries, that's not like the fact that we just needed that left back cover so much. And even when like Gabriel went out, I was even thinking this is one of the reasons why you were also purchased also. And sound like so I felt like him just not be well be him being such a liability when it came to his fitness last year was just such a big concern. The fee that we paid for him and sign the fact that he's so unorthodox. So there's times where like I'll see him get skinned on the wing by a winger, and I see him do something random going forward. But yeah, what's your take on Calafiori? I guess like his time out Arsenal so far and just like his season to date. Where would you put him in this kind of tier list?
Yeah, look, I'll explain and then I'll pop him in a tier. But look, I think Calafiori's been he's been good this season. Really good actually. Probably up there with kind of the like if there was kind of like a team of the season in the Prem. There's a good shot. He's playing left back in that team, man. I think he scored a couple goals. Correct me if I'm wrong. Obviously got the win against United. Just all round like as in, and I think he was struggling defensively. I think last season. I think I don't remember him running into any issues. Getting skinned this season at all. So it is one of those ones where I think he's kind of come leaps and bounds, and I think with him it's always been the question's always been, can you stay fit? Can you continue staying in the team? Having a run of games. I think Lewis Skelly playing in the Champions League and giving him that rest has helped things as well. But I think he's been good, man. I think he's been good, man. So I'll pop him in A, man. I'm gonna pop him in A. I don't know if you agree.
No. I feel like probably what we'll do is maybe we'll kind of take turns, kind of maybe giving our kind of take on the player, and then we can kind of say whether we agree or disagree. But yeah, I think I'm completely with you in terms of A. Like I agree. I think I was looking at the stats now. So he's got 1 goal and 2 assists so far in the Premier League this season. And yeah,
Okay.
man,
Yeah.
he's been amazing. Like I feel like the fitness concerns because it got to a point where last year where it's like every other game I was like, yeah, you're gonna be out of the squad because you're gonna get injured. So just the fact that he's able to put this run together so far has been amazing to see. Like he's so unorthodox as well. Because I think when everyone, I guess the Arteta naysayers, the people that really have big issues with Arteta in terms of maybe he's that control freakness and maybe just how much he needs everything to be done a specific way, like we were discussing, and maybe the difference between 0-0 and 1-0 and like how he approaches games, and maybe he's a bit more negative than positive. The fact that he lets Calafiori do what he does on the pitch, I think we have to give him some credit because he just completely plays left back, plays center mid, plays on the right. Like, he just completely just roams. And I feel like that kind of chaos aspect, I think, as rigid as we can be sometimes, is lovely. The fact that he feels so difficult to pick up for the opposition, and he creates
I
so
mean,
much
I mean,
opportunity.
I mean,
That
he scores that goal at Fulham, and if he's on side, like
like the
you open
technical,
up a game like that. Come on,
yeah, the technical ability
ridiculous.
from this guy is, yeah. I feel like we're really seeing it now, where even he's finishing sometimes. I'm like, this guy really a left back. There's always concern sometimes when like you look at certain managers, like maybe Maresca, and like or maybe Arteta sometimes, where you look at where they're placing, maybe let's say Cucurella, like where these players are picking up the ball, and then you ask yourself, why is this player picking up the ball in these spaces when I could have someone else picking up the ball in these spaces? But I feel like Calafiori's technical ability sometimes is where it's a left back picking up the ball sometimes as a striker, but he strikes the ball so well that you can't really argue with it sometimes because he's like he does what he needs to do when he gets there. So nah, man. So that
For
being
sure,
said,
for sure.
yeah, I'll definitely put him in A. I think S will be interesting to see. Maybe afterwards we might see who we if we would place anyone in S so far. Because like you say, it's still quite early, but we'll circle back right at the
Yeah,
end. But swiftly
for sure.
moving on, yeah, you alluded to
Yeah,
it
you
earlier.
gonna take no? You can take Ebrez, man.
No,
I
no, no,
give
no,
it to
yeah.
you, man.
No, I was gonna literally just start off, give my initial thoughts, and then yeah, you let me know. That's not you agree, disagree. We'll get into it, but yeah, I feel like you've alluded to it, and I've noticed it too over the last few games, especially with the move into that kind of right attacking mid position as well, because that was definitely one of those calls that a lot of Arsenal fans were crying out for. And there was a lot
Mm.
of, and it was quite a name for me also sometimes where it's like he's not a left winger, he can never play there. Where it's just like again, it's like he can play there if other decisions are made around the squad that it enables him to play the position and how he kind of shone at Palace. And so that's always kind of like my thing rather than just like a blanket. A player can't play in a certain position. It's the instructions you give him that depends on how well he's going to do there. So that being said, he gets moved to the right attacking mid, and I think there's a lot of kind of like like I guess hype around it, because a lot of people who have wanted Odegaard drop for a long time kind of expected Eze to come in and just cement the position now, and Odegaard now is struggling to get back to the team. But I think what you've actually seen is that has struggled when he's come to, like, I guess, his general performance and making his mark on matches. Like, I look at Saka, like you say, that the last few games is getting the ball and he's making things happen. He's running at his man. He's being direct. Whereas Eze, sometimes it feels like he's very, like, what I like about him compared to Odegaard, he's definitely very, like, shot confident. Like, he will, if he gets to the yard, go for the shot. And I think that always introduces a chance that he can land somewhere and it can be a goal. But I think his general play has definitely been disappointing from, like, the excitement that we had when we were bringing him in. That's like when we knew that he was going to come into the club, like, with the difference that we thought he would make when you add him to a Saka. I think we just haven't seen that at Arsenal so far. But yeah, I think that's kind of like my take. I think that's when I'll pass it on to you guys. I know you were saying earlier, like, again, it's still early. He still needs to, like, acclimatize to the squad. But I guess you kind of take it from there. But that being said, so I think I will actually I'll put him in C right now. So, which I don't know if it's harsh, but I think I'll put him in C right now, in my opinion. But yeah, do you agree, disagree?
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with you. And to be honest, honestly, it would have been a D if he didn't give that assist for Martinelli, like, because that was the one piece of magic that he was able to produce. A moment, high pressure, takes the ball, sees the run, and mind you, this is a Martinelli run that nobody in Arsenal for the past 5 years have seen Martinelli do. But he sees that
Wait, sorry,
Martinelli run,
just
and
be clear, sorry. This is
yeah, go on.
Eze, right? That we're
This is
doing, not.
Yeah,
Am
that's
I
Eze.
not
That's
the
Eze. That's
Yeah,
Eze.
okay, cool, great, cool.
No, no, no,
Yeah, cool.
no. That's
But
Eze.
the
That's
run
Eze.
was skelly though, right? Because you're saying the run from that, the assist from Martinelli. Are you talking about the Atletico game?
Yeah. No, I'm talking about the City game. So the
Oh,
City
the
game where
City
we drew
game. Okay,
1-1.
cool. Okay, cool.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
All
So
right,
so so
cool. Yep.
Eze obviously does the ball to Martinelli for him to obviously to lob it over Donnarumma. And I think, to be honest with you, look, with Eze, I think again it's still early. We're only 8 games in. And he is no doubt a talent. I think every time he gets the ball, like, there's a potential for something to happen, you know. But I think you have to remember with Eze, he's coming from a team in Palace where the pitch is in front of him. There isn't the team's setting up in a low block, so he has that space to run and carry the ball. I think that's his superpower. So every time he picks up the ball, for us, it's like 15 players in front of him. So I think he needs to adjust to that. I think, again, just to kind of just to go off your Odegaard point as well. I think if fans were expecting him to just slot in, like a glove when replacing Odegaard, I think you need to remember what the profile that Odegaard has. Is completely different to the profile that Eze has. And I think the team also need to work towards Eze. Is my feeling. I think Eze is a quality player, but they need to learn how to play with him. Is my honest opinion. So again, I agree with C. I think he just needs to get familiar with the team. Once he's familiar with the team, I think he'll do amazing stuff for us, for sure.
No, 100. And someone that doesn't, I guess sometimes it's difficult when you go from being the star man in your team, your previous team, to just being a man in another team. Also, you have to also learn how to kind of play in that kind of, I guess, that new reality. So, nah, man, the talent is definitely there. And it's going to be interesting to see how Arteta does use him when, I guess, Odegaard does come back. Because kind of alluding back to, like, my point very, very quickly at the start is where I would love a team where we can play Eze, we can play Odegaard together. And for that to happen, it would have to mean that Eze would have to play on the left. And if for that to happen, it would mean that we'd have to play Hincapi or Calafiori who hugs the touchline on the left, like as a left back. And so I think that's kind of like my ideal best kind of case scenario for Arsenal right now when it comes to, like, our team. But again, whether that's Arteta's kind of I guess thought process, I think that's what we have to see when all these players come back, because yes, it's going to be tough to fit them all in. But
100%.
That being said, I think the next player here, this thing is so tiny, but
Surely
I'm pretty sure that's
that's
Gabriel.
Gabriel's.
Yeah, big
That's
Gabby.
Gabriel
Yeah,
celebrating
yeah,
at Newcastle. Yeah, no,
yeah.
I'll take this one. Look, honestly, put him in S. Put him in S. Look, he's been phenomenal this season, man. I think other than the little trip that he had, at the beginning of the Fulham game. You know, he did come back from the Brazil national team. You know, like as in from I think Japan they flew back from. You know, so obviously really long flight back, and I think he struggled a little bit. But look, other than that, man, he's been immense. You know, he's been colossal at the back. You know, and he's contributed at the front. Gets the winner against Newcastle. Gets the assist for Gyökeres. Gets the assist for Trossard as well against Fulham. You know, so he is a menace in both boxes. You know, I think we've got a lot of players to go through, but he's
Yeah,
a,
yeah,
he's an
yeah.
S for me. You know, so we don't even need to waste time. I mean, you can add what you want to add.
You know what? I feel like we might as well while having this conversation. Let me just see if I can spot his partner. I don't know if you can see where he is. Yeah, just I think I'll put him marginally a bit below and put him in an A because, and that's probably that might even be harsh because I also feel like when we talk about the defensive record that we have right now, it can only be possible because of these two center backs, and I think they've both been amazing. But I think Gabriel just has that extra edge when it comes to just how much of a threat he is in the opposition's box as well, and how when we say that these tight new game, like 0-0 games where it looks like who's gonna get the breakthrough, and this guy is just there towering over. So the fact that everyone knows what he's gonna do and they still can't stop him, I think it just shows how inevitable he is. And off the back of coming off the what was it hamstring last season, to then come back into this year and just slide straight back into it in the same level of form that he was beforehand. Yeah, I think to kind of move it along, I'm gonna go S, and I think Saliba, yeah, I think we don't. He's just been doing his job, man. I think this is what it feels like. I like to have world class players, or they're there doing their jobs. They don't give you a reason to kind of be upset or be angry about sloppy mistakes. I see other centre backs, like for example, like I love watching Chelsea sometimes, but I look at their centre backs and I just like every game there seems to be a centre back making a mistake or making the wrong pass or getting caught on the ball. And just the fact that we have two players of this caliber where that's not other than like you say the little mishap in Fulham when Gabriel just looked a bit sloppy. In general, like they're just flawless in what they do. So yeah, unless you have any kind of thing to add on Saliba specifically, that's how I'm
Yeah,
kind of
no,
like
no.
putting it.
Nah, I completely agree with the Saliba shout as well. Look, I also think as well. I mean, him signing on is probably one of the biggest things to happen. You know, like as in the last couple of months, man. I think that's kind of gone under the radar. You know, if to have him for another 5 years, you know, signed up to the club and kind of even the comments that he said that you know he wants to win things here. You know, he doesn't want to leave until he does that. You know, and him and Gabriel, like there's that camaraderie. You know, like as in that you know they had the chat together and they said, look, we want to stay here, we want to win, man. You know, so I think for sure, you know, like as in he's showing that in the performance. I think what Saliba's done, right, and you probably agree with me here there's no chat about him because he's just done everything, you know, like as in very, very smooth, you know, no,
Yeah.
no fuss, no qualms. Do you know what I'm saying? He's defended well, like he hasn't had to do anything crazy, you know. Obviously, I don't think he's off the mark at the moment, but you know, like as in, give me another, give me another 30 games of that, you know, like as in just calm defending, no qualms, you know, and honestly, look, we're in a good place. I think, to be honest with you, I think yeah, I agree with A because I think he obviously hasn't done it, you know, like as in the attacking side of the pitch, but he has been very very good.
Yeah, and you know, Saliba normally has those like those times of season like when like Mbappe is running through and he comes out of nowhere and does that crazy slide out of nowhere. So I feel like there hasn't been anything like notable this season where I'm just like I'll put him in S the way I would with Gabriel, but I think there's definitely an argument that someone could make. So yeah, no, I think A, and then if we continue kicking on, you know what, this is maybe a interesting one actually. I'll let you kind of start with this one too. Is Martinelli? How would you judge
Ooh,
his season so far? Yeah, I think that's the interesting one.
yeah, very very interesting one. Martinelli is an interesting one because I think so I need you to help my memory here, right? So
Okay.
so he had a poor season last season, right? So
Yeah,
the
he did.
talk
I would
going
say he did.
into this season, the talk
Mm.
going into this season was if we were going to sell one to get Eze, right? Is it going to be Trossard? Is it going to be Martinelli? I think that was kind of the conversation there.
Yup.
And And I think he came into the season, and I think he was out of favor a little bit. I think Trossard started a couple of games, and I remember, um, he didn't have a great start to the season because I think we saw the same things repeating over and over again.
Yup.
So, but then everything turned in the City game, you know. And
Mm.
I think if I'm not mistaken, the City game would have been either I think the fourth game or the fifth game, or I can't remember exactly
Yeah.
which one. But since then, he's been amazing. He's been
Mm.
amazing. Like as in, every time he's played, he's done really really well. He obviously gets the goal at Athletic Club in the first game of the Champions League away from home. Gets the assist for Trossard in that game as well. Um, I think I'm gonna put him in B because I think he didn't have a
Mm.
great start to the season. Um, by the way, I think that's Jesus. Martinelli's a bit further down.
Oh, is it?
No, no,
What's
that row.
yeah, I think
You
this
see
one.
where
This is who I was gonna. Is that no? Yes, Jesus, you're right.
that's
Where's
Jesus.
Martinelli?
That's Jesus. Martinelli's there.
Where?
Martinelli. No, you
Oh,
just
there
passed him.
he
You
is.
just
All right,
passed him.
cool,
There
cool,
we
cool, cool.
go. Yeah.
Cool, cool, cool.
So like I said, I think I'm going to put him in B because I think he didn't have a great start to the season. I think that it was the same problems that he was having last season. Struggling to beat his man, and I think what Atletico Atletico Madrid showed us is he's a player that plays on instinct. If you look at all of his goals, he gets the ball from Trossard. I think it was Trossard that put him in. Oh, it might have been Saka. I think it was Saka. The goal against Athletic Club, where like he has to obviously go through, and he kind of takes the ball away from the defender,
Yeah.
and
Oh no,
runs
no, I think it
through.
was
Scuffs.
Trossard. Yeah, I think it was
Was it
Trossard. Yeah,
Trossard that gave him the ball?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So like as in, that moment of instinct, right? The goal against City runs in, right, and that first touch just to get him, like as in ahead of I think it was Vardio at the time, lobs the keeper. I think going back to the game against Atletico, literally it's a first time finish, instinctive, and I think that is the Martinelli that we know and love. When he has time on the ball, I think time is his enemy.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think one more thing as well is that when he plays in the Champions League, man, he's amazing, man. So I reckon honestly, someone's got to put some headphones in on the Premier League games and just play the Champions League music for him. You know what I'm
Yeah, but you
saying?
know what?
And
We
and
know
and
what that
and,
is
and, and
though.
he'll do his thing, man.
Like, well, I think what that is for me, like, because I completely agree that Martinelli in the Champions League is completely different to Martinelli in the Prem, and I feel like the big issue is that when I look at like 22, 23, where he was absolutely flying that year, and again, I think it was that kind of first season where teams weren't parking the bus against us, there was space to run in behind, and like you say, I think the main thing of Martinelli is that he's completely 100% agree with you that he's an instinctive player. I think there's certain players that you look at Saka that the more time you give them, the better the decision they make because they're so intelligent and they kind of like work through all the outcomes and they decide which is the right move for the team in that moment. Martinelli is the exact opposite, where I think he needs to be. You give him the ball and like, and within 2 seconds he needs to know what he's gonna do next or what's gonna happen. He's gonna make something happen. If he has to like put his head down, he has to think. I think that's when we start to see the very smelly and head down, dribbling defenders on the wing, and that Martinelli, I guess, frustrates us sometimes. But I think what we've seen recently when he's come off the bench is it's definitely been much more of the Martinelli running into space. The first time that finish against Atletico was beautiful. Like it was actually beautiful, which we'll go to Skelly afterwards. But like first time finished into the other corner. Maybe last season he takes a touch, he puts his head down, he then tries to run down the byline and he crosses it and hits the defender. And again, I think that's when Martinelli starts to really frustrate people because then you compare him to Saka, who most times when Saka gets the ball, he makes the right decision. I think Martinelli is the opposite when he has time. Like, so yeah, so I definitely echo your words. And I think he's in very good form right now. I think I still need to see more when it comes to the like he's starting against, like let's say against Palace this weekend. But then this is where there's also the argument against Arteta, where we both know what Martinelli is. And he is not the guy that you put on the touchline against Palace and you say, does that beat your man one-on-one? He's a guy that you have an overlapping left back and you tell Martinelli to make runs into the box. So I think also sometimes too, the manager can also set him up in a way where he also looks very bad because he's not being profiled, I think, the right way for like what he is, if that makes sense. So I think he
Yeah,
struggles with that sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually gonna mention that, which is funny that you did. I think with Martinelli, right? Like he is. I feel like he is a victim of the system, because I think the system is there to really platform that right side, So obviously, when everyone's, when the whole team's kind of tilted to the right side, ball gets switched out to him, like as in he is isolated over there. So again, I do agree that if he does have a left back, who can like a Hincapi for example, that can kind of run beyond him, and he's got that extra option, because he doesn't really have the left-sided player usually, which is Rice running up. So I don't know if you remember, kind of the 22-23 season. I think it was Xhaka. Xhaka used to always make that run beyond him, kind of in that left half space. That kind of gave him the space and the inroads for him to come inside. So I know he scored a lot of goals kind of in that inside right channel. Sorry, inside left channel. So I should say. So it's one of those. I think the system and hasn't helped him, and I think that's why you had kind of the the talk and the qualms about him and seeing like as in if we had to cash in on him, and I think, to be honest with you, he's proved a couple of doubters wrong. I think he's a valuable player to the squad. And yeah, so we can
Yeah. You know what? I think that's one of the things I think we're gonna probably round up with at the end, like that squad, because we were definitely never going to have a squad this deep, probably for a very long time. So I feel like these kind of players where it's up in the air in terms of what happens next summer. But now we'll get into it. I think there's definitely a good conversation there. I think the next player that
for sure.
this Skelly, because this is another player that I after not watching the Atletico match, I've kind of seen two sides of it. Where I've seen like the crazy run through midfield, and just Skelly doing what he does, man. Like we take him for granted as well, like what he's doing at his age, and just the fact that, like we say, the left back, we have our kind of gripes with like what the profile of that left back is, but he's someone I could definitely see being an option in that midfield, and I'd love to see him play there a lot more because I feel like that's just where he's probably going to shine the most for Arsenal. But what's your kind of take on his season so far? I know there was like, oh, maybe he didn't play the greatest against Atletico, but then there's the other side of where he's not really played much and he's been thrown into a game against Atletico Madrid and he still produced what he produced. But yeah, what's your kind of take on that performance and his season so far? And where would you place him?
Yeah, look, I think if we think about it this way, we've played 3 Champions League games and 1 Carabao Cup game. So he's played 4 games. Obviously, he's come on as a sub in a couple of the other games, but he's only had 4 starts this season. I don't think that's enough game time, to obviously judge someone. And I think you have to remember that this kid, I think he's 18, 19 years old now.
Yeah, probably 19 now. Yeah,
he's still very, very young. So it's one of those ones where like he is a player, that has gone leaps and bounds, man. I think I don't know. Is it my time? Is my time to tee?
Yeah. So you put them, and
Yeah.
I'll agree, disagree. What do you?
Yeah, that's fine. Look, for me, I would also put him in B.
Okay.
I am kind of tilting to C, but I think
I was thinking C, if I'm being honest. What? Yeah.
no, because the thing is, right, like I think every time he's come in, he has made an impact. Is probably, but to be fair, I think C probably makes more sense because he hasn't had the game time, But I think every time he's come on the pitch, I've been impressed with him,
Yeah.
So I'm happy with C, man. I'm happy. We can pop him in
I
C.
think this is definitely one of just like it's more the opportunities he's had to kind of like be higher hasn't been as much as maybe other players, but yeah, the talent is definitely there,
And
and I'm definitely looking for a big season.
You have to remember, Calafiori's ahead of him, and if Calafiori wasn't playing well, he'd be started. But Calafiori's playing well, and this is what happens when you have that squad depth. This is what happens when you have the players, like that are ready and willing, and like that. You've got that extra competition, So Calafuri knows if I drop a 6 out of 10, I'm out of the team, So I have to play well. I have to do well. So it's a good problem to have, man.
Yeah. No, it is. I think for me the next player that I wanna touch on and I just wanna talk about is Zubamendi, man, because I'm thinking about it, and as I kind of hover, I think I'll go A. But if I'm being honest, like I feel like when always over the summer where like something like party was going and we were saying, oh, who's gonna be the six that's gonna come into the team. We love Declan Rice, but we know like maybe his limitations sometimes when it comes to build up and playing up in the back. And then obviously there's all the noise with like where Zubimendi was going to go, whether he was going to go to Liverpool. And this guy has just been amazing, man. Like every time I watch him play, I think like he's just such a complete midfielder. Like he's defensively solid. He can leap ridiculous. Like the players that I've seen him beat in the air this season so far has been a joke. And then his technical ability as well, like these like flicks through, like sliding people through. Maybe he could do it a bit more in terms of when he gets into those spaces, but I think he's been amazing this season. So I don't know what your kind of thought on him, where you place him in a S or A, but yeah, for me, I think
Nah, for me, I have to put him in S, man. I think he has been phenomenal, man. I think the first game of the season against United, I think he struggled a little bit. I think there was news that there was talk that he was ill or something like that. But since then, man, he's been phenomenal, man. I think what he offers us, and I think I think number one, I reckon at the end of the season, I believe that he will be the signing of the season, no doubt, because I think what he offers us in that sixth position, and don't get me wrong, TP5 was a he was a good player, and what he did in that position was good, but I think Zubimendi has completely transformed that team completely. He has been able to move that position and make it his own, and he's affected the games, man. And yeah, he does this one thing, right, where like when the ball's loose and you don't think he's gonna get there, and he gets there every time, bro.
he does. He does. Like yeah, his
His
decision of when to jump is actually it's elite. It's elite.
yeah,
Like yeah, no, I echo that completely because he does.
and
There'll be times where it looks like there might be a breakaway opportunity, but yeah, he somehow snuffs it out. So
yeah.
nah, he's been
He's amazing. He's amazing on both feet. I think that's one gripe I had about the TP5. I think, there's for him, he can play off his left very, very comfortably. So he can play on both sides. He's a two-footed player. I think sometimes he can get caught, and I think the time he got caught, I think was the Liverpool game, and that led to the free kick that Szoboszlai absolutely dinks in. But other than that, man, I think he's been sensational, man. I think he's been a revelation, and like I said, I think he's been the best signing so far.
No, I won't argue with that. And I think the next player to talk about, then we have to talk about Nansan, his pivot partner, because like you say, well, maybe there's any limitations of Zubimendi sometimes physically you feel like maybe the spaces, if it gets too large, maybe there could be some vulnerability there with him. But the one person that is probably one of the best in the world in helping someone cover those spaces probably is Declan Rice. But I don't know what your kind of how would you analyze his season so far? I think yeah, it's an interesting one with Declan. Where would you place him in this tier list?
I think Declan Rice has been really good. I don't think good enough for S tier, but he's been very, very good. To be fair, he could probably go into both, man. Yeah, it's tough because I think, but him and Zubimendi, I think, is a very, very good partnership. And I think what he offers, yeah, I think they what Declan Rice kind of falls off, in terms of the ball progression. I think Zubimendi has that. But where I think Zubimendi kind of falls off with that kind of that energy and tenacity. Well, not so much energy and tenacity. I'd probably say like just kind of the doggedness Rice has that in abundance. I think he's been very, very good. I think his set pieces, man.
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
actually take it for granted. Yeah, we take it for granted because
that ball
I think there's
for
so much
yeah.
discussion sometimes when it comes to like Arsenal being good at set pieces, but it like half of
Mm.
it are the deliveries. And so like I think even teams that maybe have the same like maybe the threat like a Gabriel, they don't have a player that can deliver it the way Declan Rice can deliver the ball sometimes. Like his delivery is it's so consistent
I'm
as
gonna
well. It's
say
ridiculous.
I'm gonna say something, right? Yeah.
Go
So
on,
I
this is
heard this
something crazy.
no, nothing crazy. This is just facts. Because I've
Alright,
heard this
cool.
on a recent podcast, right? You have the best free kick takers. You have Messi, right? You have Ronaldo when he can get it over the wall.
Mm.
You have all of these like brilliant free kick takers, and that's a talent, that's a skill, right?
Mm.
Why is it not a skill that Declan Rice can ping it on someone's head? Why is it not a skill that Gabriel can win a header like out of like around four or
You know
five
what the
players?
answer to that is, bro. You know, it is. I think it's. I don't know what the right terminology for it is, yeah. But I think it's the aesthetics of football sometimes, man. I feel like when it comes to something like, for example, the way people will look down on a long throw, and it's just like, oh, what long flat or long throw? Like it's not like it. It gets kind of like just kind of dismissed as like understand like a small team kind of tactic or understand. I think corners are a bit similar where set pieces in general, if it's not a free kick into the top corner, it doesn't get the same kind of respect that other goals get, which I think we're seeing now when it comes to maybe like as a lot more teams start to rely on the long throws and the corners and you see this how it gets discussed relative to other type of goals. I think that's probably a big kind of element in there, like in terms of just not respected. But when you think of the technical ability from someone who's actually delivering those crosses, and it's like maybe both of us are involved in football at grassroots levels, and when you see like someone who's got to the point where like every free kick at this level, he's landing it exactly where he needs to land it is like well, it's not being spoken about enough. Just how much of a talent it is that he has, and the fact that even before he came to Arsenal, it wasn't unnoticeable. Like no one knew this was like a superpower of his, and the fact that he's come in now and just completely changed like how dangerous we are from it. I think again, credit has to go to the Arteta and the coaching staff or whoever's made that decision to put him on these set pieces because since then, like we haven't looked back.
Oh, 100%, 100% agree with you, man. So, look, I think something's holding me back from putting him in S. I am going to put him in
Yeah,
A.
yeah, I think so
I don't know
too.
what you think.
I
Yeah,
think so
yeah.
too. I think so too. You know what it is? I think it's that general again, maybe he suffers also when it comes to the when we look at our gripes when it comes from open play. And maybe there is that kind of element of like him as a box crashing eight sometimes. It's just like I don't know on the left hand side. So when we look about like whether Martinelli or Trossard, that left hand side compared to the right, sometimes it's just like
Uh,
it's on the
I
ball.
mean,
It's
we have a mutual friend, that
yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
think
yeah.
he's pulling his weight for his
But
price, man. So,
no,
but
but
I
you know
think
what it is though. I
he
think where I
offers us
agree
something
about.
else, though.
But
Mm,
where I agree with our mutual friend is where maybe I think Arteta also too, man. Like if on the right as well, maybe making those on those runs inside of a Saka, maybe like I think he would
mm.
also be able to give us much more going forward than maybe he can doing it from the left. So I think there is maybe just like a tweak there that could make it look a bit nicer. But that being said, like I think yeah, he's been very good this season, and we're definitely lucky to have him. And then you know what? I'm going to give you the opportunity to talk about this player because I know you were ready to give me plaudits. So I was going to say you're in Timber. Where would you place this guy this season?
I want to say, if there was is there a S star? Like, honestly, I think he's been our best player this season, man. Um,
Mm,
and the thing is as well, like you have to remember this is a player that came from an ACL injury, had surgery, yeah, played amazing last season, and then has another surgery. I think it's on his ankle. Comes back and it's like nothing's happened, man. Like he is, and the thing is as well. What I really like about it is now he's starting to add like a forward element to his game. And he started to get forward. I think he scored 2 goals, or I think it was against Leeds. Was it? Um,
yes. It was Leeds. Yeah,
he's yeah,
yeah.
he's phenomenal, man. And he's a two-way player. I mean, I think if I'm not mistaken, he's probably like, I think that there's only one player that's given him trouble. I think it was against PSG in the first leg.
Mm,
I think it was Doué. But other than
mm,
that, man, I I think he's had everybody's number, bro.
Well,
Everyone,
I think Doku gave him
everyone.
some trouble this season also in the City game. I would say probably Doku gave him some trouble in that game also.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
in general,
I don't
like
remember that. I don't remember that.
yeah,
So
nah, you know what? I'll back my guy, but yeah, I think it wasn't as comfortable as I see social media
yeah,
sometimes.
yeah,
People
yeah.
like, yeah, no one ever. I was like, that game, it was a bit insane. But
It's a bit
that
hairy.
being
It's a bit
said,
hairy. It's a
it
bit
was a bit
hairy.
hairy. But again, that doesn't matter anyway, because when we're scratching our heads to think of a couple of players that have maybe given him a tough game. Because yeah, and I think what makes it, which it might be a good place actually, because while we're here, I don't know if this is harsh, and I love him for my
Mm.
personality, and I love him for everything he's done to us up to this point. But with Benny Blanco, I think my concerns with him now, and why I'm gonna place him in D, is that when Timber was coming in, and what's it called, and Ben White was like in his kind of like in his form, and he was doing the overlapping rounds of Saka, and he was looking, it felt like a battle of who was gonna win, or it felt like it might be a battle of who's gonna win out in terms of who's gonna be our starting right back. But I just feel like off the back of like Timber's recovery, it's just been a whitewash. Like I feel like Ben White, he's had obviously his injury concerns also. Maybe that's also kind of holding him back, where he kind of starts and stops a bit. But I think Timber's come back and he's just made it just not even a competition where it's a big game when I'm thinking who do I want the right back to be, and I don't even think twice about whether it's going to be Timber or Ben White at this point, because Timber, whoever you place against him, he's gonna give them trouble in terms of them getting past him. And then going forward as well, like he's always an option. He's technically very good in the opposition's box also, and he's just the heights that he's kind of reached at Arsenal. I don't think I saw it when he came in, and off the mental aspect too, or was it like his first home game? I can't remember what game it was when he actually got the ACL, where it's like you just made a big move, like in your first like couple games or one or two, 3 games. I can't remember exactly how many games he played up to that point. You get an ACL, you're out for the rest of the season. So then come back to the next year and then go on to be one of the probably the best right backs in the world. Not even like with Arsenal tinted like glasses on, just objectively, anyone can say that he's one of the best right backs in the world right now. Yeah, I think right now it's looking like it's a clear senior and what's it called, assistant type of role when it comes to Ben White and Timber, which is why I think I would place it like this. I don't know if you have any disagreements on that.
Yeah, no, no, no. I'll agree with you there. I think the one thing I will add for Ben White is I kind of feel sorry for him because I think, and I'll correct you,
Hmm.
Timber got an ACL in the first game of the Premier League season. So
Okay.
he played during pre-season, played left back and right
Hmm.
back. He played a bit in centre back. Yeah, we saw him. Saw he was quality. ACL half time gets taken off. So, and I think that injury, all right, is kind of like a sliding doors moment because that injury happening at that point in time, I think at the time Ben White wasn't fit, and he had to
Hmm.
play throughout that whole season.
Hmm.
Obviously because Tim obviously got the ACL.
Yeah,
There's no
and
obviously no
Tomiyasu was
point
also
buying another.
yeah.
Tomiyasu was obviously running into his injury problems as well. So obviously Ben White had to obviously play, and he's obviously played through injury. I think that there's something that's or that there's talk that had come out that he had to play on injections and whatnot. So ends up getting the surgery, right? And that's when obviously Timber comes back. So obviously it's kind of been unlucky in both senses, but I think what Timber's done is Timber's had two surgeries, and every time he's come back, he's been amazing, right? Obviously Ben White was unlucky that he had to play through that injury, has a surgery, comes back, and I just don't think he's up to scratch or up to speed, man. And I think that's probably the issue there. So no, like I said, I've got to agree. I think I really like Ben White as well. I think he's a quality player, but I just think he's struggled to get up to speed in the games, and we just have to kind of wait on him. And like I said, man, it's like you said, man. You got your senior, you got your junior, man. And I
Listen,
think Ben White is
and that's
junior
why
right now, man.
yeah, and we're happy to have it too, man. Because you do need that squad depth. So again, this is not even like a criticism on Ben White. I think it's just what Timber's doing, and just the fact that he has struggled since he's returned. So yeah, no, definitely one to watch, and hopefully, man, this can be a season that he gets the rest he deserves, and he can then come back and show us what he's capable of. This one, you know what? I'm trying to think of an interesting one. this would be a quick one, but I think maybe I don't even want to give him some credit because yeah, Mosquera, like he has been a signing that also like he kind of went under the radar. I saw the price tag in the summer was like what 14 million or something in that kind of ballpark. Just like so it was like okay, yeah, good money. Like I saw that like people talk about him like oh he is a decent player from the Liga. And yeah, man, he has really impressed me also because again to have a player that can what's it called? Saliba gets an injury before Anfield, and he just comes into the match and just slots in, and just there's nothing is his fault. He just does his job. Obviously, maybe there's a bit of the mishap in the Newcastle game where maybe he's just kicked the ball out and he goes up for the corner, and then that's how we kind of concede off the back of that. But aside from those kind of blips, for a player to come in and be a back, like kind of like a backup player off the bench, maybe like kind of relative to what Kivior, as much as I loved Kivior last season, there was that element of like if Gabriel or Saliba went down, as much as I liked him, I felt like he was a good player. It still felt like kind of at the level below where it's like you're still there's kind of that clear kind of vulnerability in our team now that the other team can now kind of target because of maybe the fact that he just isn't as good as them. Whereas with Mosquera, it feels like there's still definitely a gap between Gabriel and Saliba, but like I have no concerns like with him coming in. Like there's some rumors now that maybe Gabriel obviously might not be fully fit for Palace. Mosquera showed me enough where I'd say, yeah, if Gabriel's not 100% fit, let Mosquera play. Understand? Like he's giving me enough confidence to say that like don't play these guys if you don't have to play these guys. And I think that's all you can kind of ask for from a player that you kind of bring in for like it's less than 50 million, like I said. But yeah, what's your take on him and where would you place him?
Yeah, nah. To be honest with you, I wanna leave this with you to place him because
Cool.
I think he's been amazing, man. But you know, obviously it's kind of like it's a game time thing for him as well. But I think yeah, like to be honest with you, I think what I think it's interesting that you mentioned Kivior. I think with the Kivior thing, you know, you could feel that there was still slightly a drop off. You know, like
Yeah.
as in that you know, like as in that players could, even though he did well, like as in kind of in that Madrid game and kind of in that run in the Champions League last season. But I think Mosquera, man, he it's almost as if like we took Saliba off in that Liverpool game and then we brought Saliba on, man. You know, like that's it was kind of
Yeah.
seamless, man. So look, I think obviously he is going to struggle for game time because you're not obviously going to get past you know the big two, but I think he's been good, man. I just it's whether you put him it's whether you
Yeah.
put him in B or C. You know, I think
Yeah,
is
I think
probably
I would
where
go. I
I'm
think I
leaning
would
to.
go. Yeah, I think I would go B just because I think performance wise when he has played, I've been really impressed. But like you say, it's more of a game time kind of thing of whether how much game time. But I think as these other cup competitions come through as well, he will definitely start to get more. And if he continues playing at that level, then I think he can definitely be an A if he continues playing as he's playing right now. Another one, maybe another quick one to kind of go because
And you know one thing I'll
what's it?
add,
Yep, go on, I'm listening.
we lost our tier.
Yeah,
No,
I know you
I
just
was just gonna say,
left, but
yeah,
yeah,
one thing
yeah.
on top of that, right?
Mm.
One thing on top of that is you have to remember how much we bought him for, man. Like as in you're telling me that's a diamond in the rough, absolute
Yeah,
steal, you know,
yeah,
for
yeah.
the price that we've got him at, you know, and it's like if you know if Saliba were to leave, you know, you wouldn't be worried, type of thing, you know. But obviously, we're now with Saliba staying, amazing
Boy,
depth.
exactly,
So yeah, brilliant
exactly.
signing.
This is a interesting play that I know we've spoken about offline as well, and maybe you can quickly touch on as we kind of maybe start flying through. I think there's a couple plays I want to speak in a bit more detail, and then I think the
Mm-hmm.
rest maybe there's not enough game times, we might just leave them. But Noeneri,
Yeah, for sure.
what are your thoughts so far? This because again, he's probably the one that's maybe when we talk about lack of game time, he's definitely up there in terms of complete lack of game time. And like, do you feel like there's any kind of concerns in terms of like I guess yeah, Odegaard is injured now. Obviously, we know Eze is going to come in, but do you have any issues with maybe it looks like Marino is definitely the player that will come in ahead of what's it called Neri also when it comes to maybe as an attacking midfielder? Like, do you think that's a problem? Like, what's your kind of I guess quick take on that?
Yeah, I think Ethan is an interesting conversation because I think you have to remember, you know, like as in how we appeared in our watching lives last season, right? You know, so Odegaard gets injured. You know, we don't see him to begin with. You know, I think Arteta opted to go with a different idea. Odegaard then comes back and then Saka gets injured, and then we see Ethan come in, and obviously Ethan does really really well. But you have to remember, obviously he is 18, so he is still young. And like it's funny, right? Because it's like in a normal situation, players like Ethan and Skelly, like you won't see them like as in the first team, because
Mm.
but obviously if you're looking at the situation that we ran into last season, we're decimated with injuries, they had to play, and they not only played, they excelled, and that's why they're in the first team now. So it's one of those. It's like you would say in normal circumstances, as an 18-year-old, the minutes that Skelly and the minutes that Ethan are getting is normal, but we can't help but remember what happened last season. So I think, yeah, with Ethan, look, I'm not worried about him, man. He signed on. He signed on for another 5 years. I think he's a talented player. I just don't think he's had the game time to affect the games. He isn't really getting a run in the Premier League. I think, that there's a few players that are ahead of him. But I also think as well, and I'd like to get your thinking on this. I think he's kind of done himself a bit of a disservice, and
Okay, why do
by
you say that?
kind of boxing him. I think he's boxed himself into that attacking midfield position by saying, I'm an attacking midfielder, right? Where I feel
Mm.
like he did well, very well, coming off the right hand side, man. Scoring some of the goals against City. I think the goal last season, the goal against Girona, where he cuts in from the right hand side and gets the shot off. I think as a young player, right, and it, it's reminiscent of Ainsley Maitland-Niles, where he tried to put himself in a box and say,
Mm.
"I'm not a right wing back. I'm a centre mid." Yeah,
Mm.
and then his games evaporated, man. So because obviously we were stuck in the centre mid position. So I'm hoping Ethan, like as in can get some more games, because I think he's a talented player, man. And at the end of the day, like he has to come, to terms with, look at the squad that we have at the moment. So he is going to be third or fourth choice in certain positions, but you have to remember he's 18 years old at the end of the day. So
Yeah. You know
so
what?
yeah,
That being said,
I'm kind of,
that
yeah. Tell me.
no, I've heard that being said. I kind of think we should just even just leave him on tier if I'm being honest, because I don't know why. I'm like, I thought bad even putting him in like D or C, but I think he would have to go into D. But I think, like you say, he's 18. He's in touch of the like he
I
like
just
it's kind of like
I
with
just
like
missed what you said, Ahmed. You said what?
no. I was saying that what's it called that he is. I think I'm gonna just leave him on the side of the players that maybe haven't got enough minutes or are injured and stuff right now, because I feel like even putting him in the tier list, I'll probably put him in D if I was, but that's mainly because he's not really been given an opportunity. So I feel like I'm happy to just kind of leave him on the side and kind of move on to another player if you're in agreement with that. Yep. Okay. I don't know if you can hear me, but yeah, I think let's
For sure,
rattle up.
for
I
sure,
guess to
for
kind
sure.
of let's get through the main players, and I feel like then we'll probably leave the rest. But yeah, I'll give you the opportunity. Saka. Do you wanna start? Or do you want me to start with him so far this season? Don't know if you can hear me.
I'll get you to start, man. I'll get you
All
to
right,
start.
cool. All right, cool. Yeah, now with Zaka, I think you alluded to it earlier, man, where it's like it feels like this is a season where he's come into it with a chip on his shoulder. Like it feels like he's come into the season and he's probably just very upset of how much of last season he missed. Maybe feel like he didn't really kick on from like the upward trajectory he's been making every single year. And it just feels like again, like he's just looking more and more dangerous every time he plays. Like he looks like he's taking like that kind of, when we start talking about like players of like that kind of caliber where they're just taking games and saying like I'm gonna decide what happens in this match, whether like just through his own individual performances. So I feel like the last few games especially, he's really starting to come to life. I feel like maybe there is a thing where maybe like again he's been a bit unlucky because I feel like he probably should have got more, or like he should have got much more return recently than he has been. So I feel like his performances have kind of shown maybe normally he also normally has like the big stats also to kind of back it. And I feel like maybe that hasn't really come to fruition as much as it kind of normally does. But again, I feel like he's just kicking on, and I think he's really starting to hit his stride now. So again, putting him in, I think for me right now, I would probably put him in A right now because I think he's definitely been one of our better players. But I'm even kind of even thinking B a little bit just because I feel like there's still so much more he can do. So it's like as much as I think he's been really good, I also still feel like there's still levels that he hasn't reached yet. So I'm a bit stuck with him where to place him. I don't know. Where would you place Saka?
Yeah, I think I was kind of having the same kind of thought, right? Because I think with Saka, right, you have to remember, he's our talisman. He's the best player in the club. So even putting him in B feels disrespectful, like in a sense. And I think you have to remember, obviously, he pulled up against Forest. He got the injury there,
Mm,
which obviously kind of lost him a couple of games, and allowed another certain player in the team to obviously hop in, which we'll get to.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, the Saka thing is interesting. I think he is between, like, if there was a tier between A and B, I think he'd be in between there, because I think, I don't think he's done enough to be in A, but I think he is better than B as well. I think, I feel like he probably deserved a bit more GA, man. To be honest with you,
Yeah,
like he
no,
did,
I think that's
he
for
had a
yeah,
he had
100.
he's had a few pre-assists. I think the goal against Fulham was his corner. I think Gabriel flicks it onto Trossard. I think there was another one where he had another pre-assist. So it's one of those ones where, look, I think he's been unlucky with the injury. It's kind of slowed down his pace a little bit. Um, you know, but at the same time, I think he is our talisman.
Mm.
He is amazing, and for him, to just have a bit of, like, as in, I think he just needs that confidence. But I think what he's been doing, and I think I said it earlier in the pod, is that he has started to take games by the scruff of the neck. I think about that Fulham game. He starts, beating Sessegnon multiple times, and driving into the pitch, like, as in, and trying to take the game, you know, to Fulham. Does it against Atletico as well, like, takes the ball, goes through, and beats his fullback multiple times. So honestly, like, as in, I think you're right. He does have a chip on his shoulder, man. And look, I think we should just put him in B. We know
Yeah,
what type
yeah.
of player he is, and
I,
we know how good he can be. And by the end of the season, man, I believe, like, as in, if we do well, it's gonna be him. Like, as in, pulling the weight, man. So I for sure expect him to be in the S tier towards the end of the season.
Yeah, and also I'm not gonna actually tear him just because again I feel like he has missed too many games now. But yeah, Noni, because I think you kind of touched him earlier, and I feel like yeah, I'm actually really excited for him to come back from his injury because I know obviously going into the summer there was a whole Arsenal fans and like I'm being really upset with bringing him in and what's it called, like all that kind of stuff. But from the little that I saw and just the fact that it kind of feels like Arteta's also experimenting this like Saka having more freedom to sometimes kind of go onto the left and maybe come back onto the right. I feel like as a partnership, in terms of when we talk about the chaos and like that creativity that we're lacking sometimes, I feel like between the two of them, that there could be really something there. So again, I'm really looking forward to him coming back and just kind of seeing how him and Saka, like their relationship when on the pitch together, kind of develops over time. But that being said, I will continue on and say what's it called? Yeah, this is a funny one because I know this is a play that I don't think we've spoken about personally, but I think anyone who kind of knows me knows that he's very divisive, and it's Mr. Marino. Understand the most technical, untechnical player. That's how I call this guy, man. Like the most technical, untechnical player. Because this guy will pull off the craziest flick and then misplace a 5 yard pass. But again, man, like he's definitely a player that, as much as sometimes he frustrates me, it's not always his fault. And maybe, like I say, like the City game, I was so upset to see him start that match, but it's not his fault. I just kind of wish that that's not the profile that or the choice Arteta goes for sometimes in these matches, and he's a bit more, I guess, brave in his selection. But that being said, man, for like a team that had no striker last year to then developing a striker in Marino, like I feel like we definitely still have to kind of like I guess appreciate him for what he kind of does bring as an option off the bench sometimes, and even just like his profile. But yeah, I don't know. He's an interesting one. But yeah, where would you place him? I think we should try. I think there's a couple more players I want to talk in a bit more detail, but I think yeah, that we should try to start flying through some of these.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, Marino, he's yeah, I think you're right. He is a very divisive player, man. Um, I think first things first before I start kind of like as in going in like what he did last season should not be underrated. Like as in he took us out of a rut, and where we were in a position where we weren't scoring a lot of goals. Kai Havertz was out. So it was a situation where we were not in the best position. So for Marino to come out and do what he did should definitely not be underrated. That's the first thing. Second thing I would say for this season, I think he's been really really good. But I think he's also been victim of the kind of discourse, kind of like and the talk around Arsenal and this whole handbrake thing. Because I think again is him the player is not the problem, but the balance in the midfield, that was the problem. And I think again, like you mentioned the City game, it was probably the wrong game to obviously have him in there. Him as a player, as a profile, like as in I think, like as in he has his job. He has his like as in I think as a squad player, I think he's very very underrated, man. For what he can offer us, and in a sense is very underrated. So I think I would potentially put him in C. I would say,
Mm.
because I think I mean, look, he does get an important goal against Newcastle. Um, which obviously gets us back into the game. I think he's probably been playing better for Spain than Arsenal, I would say. Like with his goals, but look, he's a very competent player. He just does things about the book, I would say. So
Yeah,
so so that's
yeah.
that's the type of player he is.
No, exactly. And again, this is why we need a squad of different profiles where, like the Newcastle game, we needed a different option where they were sitting deep and being resilient. As we were able to put the ball like in the air, and he was able to deliver an amazing header. Because yeah, in the air, he is very, very good. So yeah, again, having the option, we will always appreciate him. Then a player that obviously I'm going to continue and talk about and just give some credit to, man, is David Raya. Because yeah, I feel like he's definitely a player that when we look back and I'm talk about, I guess the whole kind of Ramsdale Raya discourse, I think it's definitely another element of sometimes when it comes to football and like football media where everyone feels like they have the answers and they know what the right answer, what the right kind of solution is. But then when everyone is wrong, they never go back to then kind of like correct themselves or just kind of say, oh, maybe I didn't know as much as I kind of claimed I did. And I feel like when we look back on that kind of battle in hindsight, I feel like, yeah, going for Raya was definitely the right decision because he's just gone on to just be like part of our amazing defensive structure. Like it's one thing getting past Gabriel and Saliba, and then even the one of times where players do manage to get past them, Raya is always there to always kind of clean up and get those last ditch saves that maybe sometimes you don't expect him to. And I feel like one thing about Raya that I also really, really appreciate is how dominant he is in the air. Because I feel like when we discuss, like, I guess, how dangerous set pieces are now in football and just how dangerous we are, and maybe a lot more teams are with the long throws, etc., etc. Raya is probably one of the best keepers in the world that come in and collecting crosses and any balls in the air. And for not the biggest keeper, like just how confident he is relative to when I've seen other keepers where it's clearly a weakness in them. Like you really start to appreciate, I think, a keeper that is capable of kind of basically just like any ball in the air, they'll just pluck it out and just kill all the momentum and kill the pressure and kill the and sound like. So I feel like Raya, like what he brings for us and what he kind of does as that kind of like last war, even when Gabriel and Saliba are beaten. Yeah, I feel like for me, I think it's an A, but honestly, like I think it's maybe just it's hard to maybe put him in S right now, but I think I couldn't ask for much more from him as like our kind of starting keeper. So I'm not sure how much of that you caught, Abdul, but I was just basically just discussing just Ryan, just saying just like how important he is, and that how when we look back on the discourse between like Ramsdale versus Raya, and we kind of look at how he's kind of played on over the year, like I guess since then, we kind of say that it was definitely in hindsight the right decision to make, because yeah, just how much more calmer he is, and just like like he does have these that kind of crazy moments. Like was it in the Fulham? Was it Fulham? I think it was Atletico Madrid
Athletic,
game.
the
Well,
athletic
yeah,
game,
Athletic game
yeah.
where he just I don't know what he was thinking, but other than that, like just having a keeper that's just so confident in the air in this kind of new era of dangerous long throws and dangerous crosses, I feel like it doesn't get kind of the appreciation it needs. And even when you do get past Gabriel and Saliba, he's always still there to also pull off those crazy saves sometimes that and something like keep us in the game when it's 1-0. Like, I think there's been a couple games this season where it's been like 1-0, and then there's been like a crazy cross that wasn't meant to be a cross that's going in. And again, like other keepers, maybe they fumbled that and it's not really their fault because you couldn't have expected it, but he saves those and then it keeps us in the lead and then we go on to win. I feel like those moments sometimes don't get really kind of highlighted how important they are in terms of like the momentum in matches. So yeah, I think for me, Raya is definitely at least an A. But yeah, I don't know if you have any kind of final thoughts on him.
Nah. I got to agree with you, and I think, to be honest, I think he goes on that run against Atletico because no one's taken a shot at him in 3 games, man. So he's starting to get bored, man. But nah, honestly, with Raya, I think yeah, what he's done or what he's been able to do, ever since he got the number one jersey, like he's been phenomenal, man. And I think, especially this season, in the season where I don't know how many clean sheets exactly, but I mean, only conceding 3 goals. He's a part of that defense. He's a staple in the team, man. And to have a keeper like him who can pull off, amazing saves. It's just, yeah. I mean, he's I don't know if underrated is the word, but he's obviously one of the best keepers, and I think he's probably on course to win another Golden Glove this season, man.
Yeah, like you say, what in 8 games so far, 5 clean sheets, and then the 3 goals you conceded has been 1-0, one goal, one goal, one goal. Like so, yeah, like we can't really ask for too much more from him. So yeah, I think definitely an A. And then I think there's only a couple of players. I think we will leave the big one. That's our big one. What's it called? To last the striker discussion. But I don't know if you have any kind. I guess no. I guess it's kind of two. I'll give you. You know what? Yeah. I guess Diamond. He's probably sits in the same kind of camp as Ranieri, where we kind of discuss him. I'm probably not gonna tear him just because of lack of minutes, but just maybe is there any kind of I guess things that you want to kind of say on him, and then maybe Trossard. It will kind of go on to the striker discussion and round up on this.
Yeah, I think obviously there's Trossard and Odegaard in that list.
Oh yeah, there is Odegaard too.
I
Yeah,
think,
yeah, yeah, true. Yeah.
yeah. I want to have a chat on Odegaard because I think he has started the season obviously with a couple of injuries, and it's been a kind of stop-start to the season. But I have the feeling that he knows that this is a big season. I think he had a really poor season last season, and I think he admitted that as well. And I think he kind of wanted to prove, that was wrong. I think he wanted to go, and go crazy with it because what he does when he comes on against Newcastle, it's absolutely insane, man. What like isn't he played that quarterback role, and um, I think there's obviously that scope for him to play with Eze in the middle as well. I think is what we saw in that Newcastle. I think it was the second half in that Newcastle game, where Zubimendi comes off. You still got Declan Rice, but then you have Odegaard in that, that quarterback role and just kind of dictating the tempo. It's definitely something that we can use to our advantage. In games to come. So yeah, I know obviously I would probably not going to rank him because of game time, but I definitely wanted to have to speak on him because I think, he is the captain. He's if he is on song, like he's one of the players. Like as in, I think I put him in the tier with Saka, where I feel like they can completely like rip this league to shreds, man. Like I think if Saka's on form, Odegaard's on form, like as in the effect they have on games It's just going to be it's second to none, man. So look, to be honest with you, man, I think that there has been a lot of discourse on Odegaard. But I think the talent is there, man. The talent is there. There's no there's no doubt in that. So we just wish him well. Make sure he recovers well. And we'll see him back.
No, no, definitely, and I think like I think we're just touching on it earlier. That's going to be very interesting to see how Arteta does fit them in because, like you say, he came on for Zubimendi, but then if you think like a starting team, Odegaard, Eze, like how does he balance that? So I think that is what I'm also very interested to see, like how he kind of like I guess approaches it because yeah, it does seem like Odegaard definitely can also play that Zubimendi role also. So it's like yeah, who do you go for and how do you kind of organize all of these? But again, I guess we'll hopefully see that soon when he's back, man. Because yeah, hopefully he can put a kind of run together. Because it looks like he was really starting to kind of catch light a little bit in that game. And on another day, and the injuries don't happen, and maybe we're talking about him as like he's been an A and type player this season, but unfortunately, just he's been very unlucky with the injuries. But yeah, man, I will always have a lot of time for Odegaard. Like I know he sometimes there's a lot of people that maybe don't appreciate him, and then when Eze is now not the greatest, and now it's oh Odegaard does not. But again, I'm not a football fan. It's like don't appreciate someone while they're here, and then when they're not here, you kind of understand you now start missing them. So yeah, now hopefully he'll be back soon. Then I'm not really sure too. I guess we can kind of maybe touch on Damen and Trossard, like because I think Trossard's probably a bit similar, maybe a bit similar to Martinelli, but I don't know whether he's probably not hit the heights that maybe Martinelli's also hit. How would you put them? Where would you place Trossard so far this season? I think he's another one that I'm not sure how to place him.
Do you know what? Yeah, honestly, I think Trossard is a very, very interesting player for me, man, because
Mm,
like in games, man, he absolutely frustrates me, man. Like he like sometimes like as in, and the thing is, I think it's maybe him coming of age, like as in like he's not really pulling trees, and doing well, like as in when he's kind of up against his fullback. But then he will just come up with a random goal, man, like that like as in just wins the game or gets your team back into it. And I think Arteta like really really values that in him. Like I still think he's not a great starter. I've never ever
mm,
thought that. I've always thought he's always been a good impact player off the bench. Arteta doesn't seem to believe that because he still starts him, and I think yeah, again, man, I think he's a very very frustrating player for me, man. But like as in, GA doesn't lie, man. I think we always laugh like Salah, like as in does he do much outside of his GA, like, again, I don't want to get the Liverpool fans on this one, but no, look, I think Trossard's probably kind of in that same breadth as Martinelli. I think Martinelli feels a little bit more personal
mm.
for us, because we've seen how good he can be, and we've seen his rise, we've seen his fall, and we've seen his comeback potentially, yeah. So,
Yeah,
but I think with Trossard, like as in, I don't know, I think we're a little bit more harsh on him, is what
yeah.
I
He's
would
a he's a
say.
grown he's a grown
But
man. So
to
yeah,
be
we
honest
treat
with you,
him we
man,
treat
look,
him like an unk. Yeah, go on.
yeah, 100%, man. Unk that can't run, man. But
Yeah,
look,
but
personally, I would
mm,
probably put him in C. I don't know what you're
mm.
thinking,
No,
to be
I
honest
was
with
gonna
you.
put him in. I was gonna put him in C also. Like definitely, and I
Mhm.
echo your words completely. That he does frustrate me sometimes. I think he sometimes reminds me of Gakpo. Sometimes in terms of like those players, that's like he wants to shoot, and sometimes it's like I know you want to shoot, but like don't shoot and do something else. And sometimes he's too like I want to shoot. So I think that's where he
Yeah,
frustrates me. But and I also agree that he's probably better off the bench. I think from a physical kind of point of view as well. Maybe when the other team tires a bit more, like the balancing him off the bench and them being tired kind of balances. But technically, yeah, he's definitely one of our best players. Ball striking, finishing is probably one of our best players. So he's very
for
impactful.
sure.
I think probably the reason why he's starting right now is because I think him and Martinelli are very similar in terms of they both kind of seem better as impact players. But then it's like if we are going up against a low block, and I do kind of lean against Trossard in terms of just the technical ability in those type of games where why maybe he
For sure.
starts, whereas Martinelli the spacing behind. is when I'll then go for him. Or maybe why Martinelli's, I guess, seems to maybe he might be the Champions League guy and Trossard might be the kind of Premier League guy until Eze moves back to left, maybe, or until maybe Madueke comes in. So we'll kind of see how that kind of plays out, that left wing position. Because yeah, it was definitely a massive one going into season, and it was massive for a reason, because we knew that both players were a risk, and we couldn't go into the season relying on both players. So the one good thing now is that yeah, we do have options where we understand Madueke, we do have understand like what was I gonna say? Like yeah, Eze going to the left also. So there are players that can play there if these guys aren't performing. But right now, can't ask for too much more. I think they're both pulling their weight in different ways, but yeah, can definitely kind of still looking for more from both of them for sure. And then
For
I don't
sure,
know
for
if
sure.
you Dalman is one that I think we haven't seen much of him recently. I think it was definitely much more maybe at the start of the season where he was getting minutes, and it was like, wow, you expect him to get the understand the head that minutes, 2 minutes, where he was coming on for half an hour. Like so, I think with him it just kind of just shows that we have an elite talent on our hands. Like, and so when you look at what Rio's in Liverpool as well, and you look at Dalman and you say that yeah, we have a 15, 16-year-old player that's at the levels where, like, as you watch his kind of comps, you see what he's doing at all the other kind of level age groups. You realize that yeah, man, I think we've kept him on for I think on like his scholarship kind of contract, so it looks like he's gonna be
Correct.
here for at
Yeah,
least the next couple of years. And I think again, I think for all the signings we made this summer, I think Berta needs massive respect for all the players that we've kept. Like probably even more respect for the players that we kept more than the players that we
for
signed,
sure.
because
For sure.
like I think a lot of Arsenal fans kind of fears right now is that we've been nearly meant for so long, and sometimes when you're nearly for too long, the Salibas and the Sakas and they say we don't really believe anymore, and then they want to move on. But the fact that we've kept them on as we kind of go into this kind of next period where you think that if we do manage to get a major title over the line, that we can be in a conversation for another few over the next few years because the caliber of players that we have. So yeah, no, definitely great to have a young talent like that like coming
Yeah,
through. So yeah, I
yeah,
don't know if you want to add
yeah,
anything to that.
100%, 100%. No, no, no. And I think you've hit the nail on the head, man. Like, he's an elite talent. I think it's going to be interesting, and I think me and you've had discussions kind of offline, just in terms of like the future of the club and the future of the team, and like as in he's definitely going to be a part of it, man. It's just how you're going to fit him in. That's kind of the $1 million question. How are you going to fit a player like that in? And make him able to obviously to flourish, man. Whether he's going to be in that inside kind of right channel, or if he's going to play off the right wing, we still don't know. He's still young. He's still developing. But he's chosen to develop with Arsenal, man. So yeah, it's really 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 good stuff so far.
Yeah. And then kind of just I think we've kind of spoken on everyone other than the main man, because I know you wanted to kind of touching him earlier, and I feel like maybe this could be a nice way to kind of round up the tier list, and then we'll kind of go into kind of like the closing of the stream. But yeah, Gyökeres, what? Talk to me. Talk to me. Give you the floor with this one, because that was a deep sigh. Are you concerned? What's your why was that so intense?
No, because I think the the debates, man, and the discourse between for this player Gyökeres is it's a lot. Um,
Mm,
Now, I was always of the idea before we signed Gyökeres that whether we got Gyökeres or Sesko, they would both improve us. So
mm,
I never had like a. I mean, I think I was leaning to Sesko,
mm,
but like we're talking 51-49, like that, like in that particular sense, right? For the two players. To be fair to you, I actually really really liked Ekitike, and we're obviously seeing what he's doing. For Liverpool, he's obviously pulling his weight. A certain other 130 million striker isn't, but we obviously we won't get there. But I think the thing with Gyökeres, right, is that the question is a personal question to you, to me, to the viewers, to the Arsenal fandom, is how do you value what he does? That's really the question here, because if you're all about GA, and him, like as in he should be scoring X amount of goals, getting X amount of assists. You're probably disappointed, man, to be honest with you. But then on the other hand, if you value, all of the running that he does, and all of the players that he pulls away from, from the other players, and the other people having more space now. Saka has more space on the wing and stuff. Then you probably value him a little bit better. So I think it's all down to personal preference. I would say, hasn't looked amazing on the eye either. I think he's had a few little mishaps here and there. I think I count that more towards not having a preseason. He's obviously had all of the crazy stuff happening with Sporting. Before obviously coming in, and he probably wasn't really match fit. For the last couple of weeks. But I think what I value from Gyökeres, again, this is just my personal feeling, is that he is a trier, man. He is a trier. He's a hard working player, and I think he's relentless, man. That's one thing. Like, and I think in that particular period, obviously, if we're talking away from the Atletico game, in that particular period, man, like he was running the same way that he was running when he was at Sporting. He's relentless, and I think it just wasn't landing for him, man. I mean, if you think about the penalty that he wins at Newcastle, if they give that a penalty, he takes that. And that would have been his own doing. I think, even I think was it the shot against Olympiacos? He shoots, trickles under the keeper, and it's rolling, rolling, rolling. But hits the post. Obviously,
Yeah, yeah,
Martinelli has to
yeah, yeah.
finish it,
I actually went to that
But
game.
like,
Yeah,
as
yeah,
in,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, as in, but if that rolls in, that's another goal for him. So it's like, I think he's been unlucky. I don't think he's been amazing. He hasn't pulled trees, but I think what he's offered the team, like, as in he's obviously been there and thereabouts, man. I think if we were to go for an Isak, I think Isak was probably the other striker on the market that was going to be like, as in miles better than Gyökeres. Like, we were always going to have some sort of a drop off, but I think what he offers the team, and I think as well, I'll get your opinion on this as well after you kind of talk about Gyökeres, is I feel like he's also suffered because of Havertz's injury, because I think Havertz and him like are kind of two sides of a coin, in a sense that I think Havertz, like, as in a weird way, like, as in helps us, like, as in some of the other games where, like, as in Gyökeres might struggle when there isn't that space in behind. But I think when there's the space in behind, I think Havertz doesn't have that in his locker. But I think Gyökeres does. So I think, like, as in imagine, like, when you have, like, as in the fullback situation, for example, right? Calafiori plays 70 minutes. You can then take him off and put Miles on. Probably kind of, the same level of player. You're getting the same level of performance, in a sense, right? But Gyökeres has had to play 90 after 90, man. He's had to play 90 after 90. If he's not, obviously we have to swap him for Marino at times. But if he has, like, a Havertz, like, as in maybe that starts the game, where's the team at, and then you get his energy coming on, or you start with his energy, and then obviously Havertz comes on, like, as in a certain situation, right? You're preserving his minutes, you're preserving his energy, and he'd be a spring chicken, man. So look, I think I've gone on Gyökeres a little bit. I think getting the 2 goals against Atletico Madrid was important for him, and I'm glad that he did, because I think he showed that, like, as in he's still in the room. He still wants to make things happen, and he is relentless. I think that's the one word I can pop on him, is that he's a relentless player. For that, I probably would put him in B, because I think again, he's kind of like in the Saka mode where I feel like there's still so much that he can do, still so
Mm.
much that he can amount to. You know, and it's up to him. And I think again, me and you, and me and you, like we've spoken offline, and I remember saying to you that, like, I am pinning the season down onto if Jokeres, bangs, because I think if he has the ability, his goals have the ability to push us, forward, man. So again, he hasn't been scoring. He has been affecting the games. Again, if you're a GA person or if you're an aesthetics person, you might not be as happy. But I think what he's offered the team, I think I'm happy with what he's done.
Yeah, no, I feel like with Jokeres because yeah, well, one of my major yesterday when we were streaming, he actually asked me a really good question where we kind of went through like a TK, Jokeres, Sesko, and Votmade, and like how we kind of how I feel about I guess about our like the who we went for. And I think just very quickly. Like kind of adding on to what you said is that I completely agree in terms of I think he's definitely brought us a lot more to like how we play more than just his goals because of how much running he does. Like I feel like if he maybe had the performances and the lack of goals and maybe the work rate wasn't there, I'd be much more critical of him. But because I know that even if he's not getting the goals, he is creating space for the Sackers and he is continuously making himself a menace against the centre back pairing. I think that's why, like, I think with Jokeres, I've just kind of just accepted him for who he is and what he is. And I think I've just come to the point where like a TK, I love the flicks, I love the movement. I can look at him and say that's a baller. I understand. I would love it. Maybe that's the option Arsenal went for. We didn't. I think Jokeres, he's not the prettiest in the eye. Like, but that's not even. I think that Let's Go goal just kind of just summarizes him, where it was just like it was just two smelly goals, but you know what? He took it regardless because he doesn't care how he gets it. And again, I feel like that's just really what we needed this season. We just needed someone that, and so even if you do go through these periods and you do have tough times, where the mentality is there, where that was maybe the concern of like maybe a Sesko, where the younger player like the Votmadi, Ekitike, as great as he's been, if it comes to Arsenal, maybe it didn't start well, and then now the conversation will be, why did you go for a risky option where you should have gone for the guy that you knew was going to get goals? I feel like we always have to be careful with like after the fact, like revisionism. But like in terms of the decision, I feel like overall, if you kind of knew what he was before in Sporting, then you shouldn't be really kind of shocked at what he's kind of showing right now. I feel like he has a room to grow, but I think it's also the acceptance that what's it called? Wait, sorry, I don't see the comments. I'll just bring it up. I'm about to definitely put him higher than the D. So definitely stay tuned for the final answer. But yeah, nah, I definitely wouldn't give him a D. I think before I kind of give my kind of final take is that sounds crazy. What's it called? I definitely wouldn't put him what's it called in D, but what's it called? I think what is interesting in what you said also is the fact that you feel like he's missed Havertz. And I actually kind of think the opposite, you know. I feel like it's been quite good for him that Havertz hasn't been fit right now. Because I feel like because we also know the manager that we have and we know Arteta, we know maybe how maybe comfortable he would have, maybe how alluring it would be to just kind of go back to what he knows in Havertz. And as much as I'm saying Havertz technically is maybe better than Gyökeres and he's a lot cleaner on the ball, he doesn't offer that kind of running in behind and that kind of threat going the other way that Gyökeres does. And I feel like maybe like it giving Gyökeres a like chance to go through this barren spell without the risk of Havertz might then just come in for a few games has also kind of given him a lot more leeway than he would have had otherwise. But definitely from the point of view of like, yeah, he shouldn't be playing like back to back 90 minutes and having a striker to share that burden with. So I think hopefully now, like by the time Havertz comes back, he's in good enough form where it's a battle now and it's not just a straight, you haven't been great, so Havertz comes back in. I think then it can be a healthy competition of if Havertz comes and gets his 30 minutes and then scores 2 goals and now it's a conversation. That's not who plays. I think that's what we want as Arsenal fans to have that be the discussion point. Like whoever wins out, like it is what it is. Like I have no problems. But yeah, I think Gyökeres, I think people who would say that he's a C or D, I think again, I mean, like you kind of said, is maybe going too far to his only job and purpose is to score goals. And if he doesn't score goals, and he hasn't been great. And I feel like sometimes the striker's role is such a selfless role in football right now, or nowadays, where it's just like, it's like we bought you for the goals, and it's why we're going to be critical if you don't get the goals. But at the same time, we have to also look at what the player brings to the whole team. And when we say like what's it called, compared to like compared to last season where there was just teams just knew that no one was gonna run in behind or no one was gonna stretch them beyond. The fact that he's doing that, I think we have to give him credit. But yes, I think that being said, I think I actually agreed with you where I think he's a B. I think he was never going to be an S unless he came in and he was just like a just technically much better than anything I'd seen so far. Because again, I had the reservations when it came to Gyökeres before he came in terms of we play low blocks. Maybe he needs that extra time for the touch. So I'm now not gonna now like ignore the fact that I had those fears before, and it seems to be maybe sometimes that is coming to pass. So that's why he also needs to do better in those kind of games, and so he has a lot to prove. I think, yeah, if he had continued maybe just like the scoring rate, or maybe he wasn't looking as pretty, then I'll just say, it's not really maybe the Arsenal way to kind of like these kind of strikers. I'm saying he's a lot more like a Costa, like that's not just like a rough and tumble striker that will get his goals but isn't the prettiest. And maybe we kind of wanted like the Thierry, like the kind of fluid, something like play that looks good in the eye, and that's just not what he is. So I think B is kind of just like a fair, just like he's done relatively well in some parts. When he hasn't scored, he's always made himself a nuisance. He's always opened up space. He could do more. I think a C or D would be harsh because I don't think he's objectively been poor. And I think that's what he kind of have to be as a striker right now for me to want to place him a bit lower, like in terms of like his role as a striker. But I don't know if you have any kind of final points in that on what I've said.
No. I agree with you, man. Like I mentioned before, I think again, it's probably what you have to look at is what you value, like as in and what you're looking in the player. I think was probably my main point on the Gyökeres thing, because I think he's a player that I think if things go well for him, like as in he'll score a lot of goals, man, because I think he's a very, very good finisher. It's just that obviously he hasn't had the chances we haven't probably made the chances for him. I think that's another argument as well. So, but I think B's probably the fairest. Like as in nothing too crazy, nothing too horrible. But definitely we're definitely expecting more to come from him. That's for sure. I think now that we've got to our obviously because we can obviously skim through this list because we can maybe do like a one-liner on each, right? For me, like as in because obviously I mentioned obviously the Havertz, Gyökeres kind of dynamic. Do you rate Havertz? Like, is that someone that like as in you have time for?
I do, man. Like again, I know there's a lot of people that don't rate him, but I think I do. I think again, I accept players for like what they are, and I kind of accept what they're not. I think Havertz is he's not the clinical striker that was ever going to get us goals. He was always going to be, if he was to play up front, the striker that would provide opportunities for Saka, for Martinelli, and be that kind of creative kind of outlet for those players also. I feel like when we look at games where like Gyökeres, when we maybe talk about his flaws, and we say when that ball gets pinged from Raya, like he's so poor sometimes when it comes to like bringing the ball down and linking the play from there. Havertz is a complete opposite. I think he's much more dominant in that kind of in those situations. So I feel like that's kind of why I wanted Gyökeres a bit more towards the end, more than Sesko. Is that at least with Gyökeres is a completely different profile to what Havertz brings us. But I also don't just like look at Havertz and just think like we have no need for him at all, because I think we do need that in some games, and there will be some situations where like we do need that alternative option. And like you say, sometimes too, there may be chances too, or maybe they have a chance to play together also, where maybe they kind of complement each other in some regard. So yeah, I do have some time for Havertz. I have no problem with him maybe being that the kind of play the option off the bench and in some games starting. But yeah, so that's kind of answer your question. Yeah, I have time for Havertz.
Yeah.
But
Brilliant.
I know that's not always the case with a lot of people.
Nah, for sure. And I think again, just because I think we spoke on Odegaard, Max, and Ethan. I think you could probably put Neto. I'm thinking we're still in last season. I think you could put Kepa and Norgard in the same kind of bracket. Like as in, really, really good players. Like as in, or I wouldn't say good player. I'd say functional players. Like as in that will help us out. With the squad depth as well. I think Norgard probably taking that Jorginho role, and just kind of, saving Zubimendi and Rice's legs in a sense. So I think that's pretty good. I'm interested to see what you think of Hincapi, because obviously he's only had 5 minutes, I think, at the end of the Athletic Club game. He's obviously been out, so obviously probably not worth a rating. But I think, I think there's a lot of theory. No, there's nothing practical out there. But I think, we did mention obviously him and Eze, like what kind of dynamic that can produce as well. And I think. Did you find it weird that Arsenal went for him as that last signing? With the loan with the obligation, or not obligation? Sorry, I think it's the loan with the option.
Mm.
Did you find that? Did you find that weird?
Yeah, no, I
Like,
definitely did.
you can tell me.
I think for the money that we paid as well, because what is it? The option, I think it's like what, like almost 50 odd mil,
45, yeah, 45
45,
mil, I
yeah,
think
it's
it is.
like
Yeah.
45 mil. So it's big money for a player that maybe I think that kind of suggests that the role that he's gonna have in the squad isn't gonna be just maybe like, for example, like the backup. But that's not like kind of he's not gonna get many minutes. So there must be an kind of thought process behind that. But then I think what that then makes me think is that surely that must mean that Skelly becomes a much more of a midfield option and not really, like, I guess maybe further down the pecking order than even Hincapi and Calafiori as left back, which I wouldn't mind if it meant that Skelly got more opportunities in midfield as like a backup to Zubimendi or maybe a sign. Like, I think that's why I would actually kind of love to see him play. So I'm definitely very excited. I don't know much about him. I didn't watch much of him last season, and obviously, yeah, he's not had any minutes for Arsenal so far. But the idea of having him maybe be the player that can kind of what's called like hug that touchline a bit more and let whoever plays that left kind of be more of an inside forward and roam a bit more from that side. I really like the idea that like, and I can kind of see the difference to maybe Calafuri becomes a person that maybe is a bit more unpredictable and can come inside. He's a person that's gonna go on the outside. So how you pair them up, like, because even like kind of like looking at this, like even when we say like I think we touched on it earlier without going too long on it, but it's like Skelly left back and Martinelli left wing. I just don't want to see it. I don't want to see it because again, I feel like we just look at where we're not really complementing both players like to their best. I feel like if it's gonna be Skelly left back, then I want it to be Madueke left wing. That's like I can then kind of see the logic of like he doesn't need maybe as much of a play on the overlap. We're gonna have someone who's gonna invert. So I just want to see Arteta kind of like pair up these like that left back and that left wing position in a way that complements both players. And I think Hincapi definitely, I can see him complement Eze and Martinelli much more on that kind of left wing side. I think I kind of like the potential, like you say, it's all theory right now, but I like the potential of
Mm-hmm.
what that could look like with him. But we haven't seen much, and
Mm-hmm.
obviously, and this is just me also hearing about his profile. I haven't actually watched him really play, so I don't know whether
Mm-hmm.
you know more about him. But yeah, what's your kind of I guess take on Hincapi?
Yeah, no, I think again, as in I didn't really watch the Bundesliga last season. Didn't really watch him last season, but I mean you have to remember he's a league winner, with Bayer Leverkusen a couple of years back then. So, I think for all intents and purposes, from what I know, he's a up and coming, or like he's a robust fullback, or he plays in a back three, as a kind of left side, centre back. So but what he does is he's different to Calafiori, he's different to Skelly, so he definitely does offer a different look to those players. It's just about finding a place for him in the squad. So yeah, man. Yeah, I would say I think we only got one player left on this tier list, and like this one pains me, man. This one this
Uh,
this one pains me,
Gabby,
man.
yeah, big Gabby. I actually saw a quote just off the side of one screen when I was flicking around earlier about like, I still want. I was like, he still wants to be in the plans for Arsenal, and in January when he's back, he wants to try kind of fight because yeah, man. Gabby Jesus, and I'm with you, man. He's a player that when he came in, I think as an Arsenal fan, I think a lot of Arsenal fans can say that, yeah, man. It felt like he changed our lives, man. Just like the quality that he brought just off the bat from day one, from preseason, the first moment he laced up his boots, he felt like he was just flying. And that started the season that we had with him. It just looked like when we say the Arsenal that we kind of want to see, like all the criticisms now that we have about Arsenal, sometimes we got creativity and like how do we break down. I feel like Mavericks like Jesus were the kind of players why even in that period, like even when teams would maybe be a bit more defensive, he would just beat two or three players, and now he's opened up space for someone else. And not a lot of players can do that. But yeah, man, since then, man, he's just had massive injury issues, and it just looks like, yeah, you just kind of just. I think sometimes with these players, sometimes it gets to a point where you stop really relying or being excited with. But when they come back, they kind of have to prove it to you because you've just been kind of just, I guess, the setbacks have just happened so often that you just don't really kind of believe that they're gonna kind of kick on. But he's one that, again, as a squad option, like, and maybe this might be a good kind of way. I'll get your take on it. Then we'll kind of segue into kind of the final part of the stream. But yeah, what's your kind of take on Jesus?
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree with everything you said, man. I think the problem with Jesus is his body has failed him, man. Let's be real, man. Like he's a, and the thing is as well, like you have to think, if when you're looking at Gyökeres and you're looking at Havertz, two different type of strikers, Jesus is completely different to both of them. So you have three different profiles, right? Like as in for a specific for a specific situation, like I said, you have the players for it, man. So it's crazy, man. Like and I think like Jesus, man, he's a talented player. Probably not the best finisher, but like as in terms of creating space and beating players, like he's up there, man. So it's like kind of in that maverick type of player, man. So yeah, I think we can segue kind of into that final section, but because I think it's kind of relevant to Jesus and whatnot. So, and I
Yeah,
know
no,
like as in
that's
it's getting time is going. So
yeah, no, it's so great. It's been a great chat anyway, and when this has
for
been
sure.
a long time coming, so yeah, no, I have no problems with it. But like you kind of say, I feel like maybe the kind of like the best way to kind of close the stream and maybe interesting people in the chat also to kind of get their take on this, because I feel like we're definitely at this season where we have to say that we're probably never going to have the squad depth that we have, like depth that we have this season ever again, because we're kind of falling into a scenario where we bought a load of players and we also have a load of players that you'd have to think that this time next season just would not be happy to be sitting on the bench and not getting many minutes. So, like you said, even like he's just coming back in January now, let's say when he does come back and he's now option also, it's like you look at I'm saying like what happens with Martinelli and Trossard this year, Eze this year, and so I was already talking about Nwaneri when where's Ethan going to get minutes this year. You can just kind of see where it's like as great as it is right now to keep saying that we have so many options. It surely at some point has to kind of come to a head in terms of like who's actually going to be in the squad next season. Was kind of like one part of like my question, just like initial, like to kind of discuss, and then the kind of second part of that also is like because finally I've been playing Football Manager because the beta's come out this year. What's it called? A couple yesterday, and from even playing it and like even trying to make decisions as like Arsenal, I also realized I'm also asking myself like, where in the squad also like would you still say that there could still be maybe something, or do you feel like we've just because like we suppose like we have so many options that you didn't have to kind of take a step back and say like are we perfect in every position now, or is there still positions that you would stay going into like let's say next summer that maybe there's still kind of room for us to improve upon in terms of our options? So it's kind of like a two kind of part question in terms of just like our squad and just like where you think there's any still gaps even within that. Like what's your kind of take on that to kind of wrap it all up?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just kind of like so with the first point, I think it's an interesting dynamic, right? So at the beginning of the season, I think there was talk of either losing Martinelli or losing Trossard. I think that was kind of the main one, right? Now you have two players there, just in that particular example, right? Two players there that are like I said, on their day, really really good players. Um, you know, Obviously a little bit more to be desired, but you can see what they're doing this season. Um, and like these are these are like as in players that they're too big to leave out, like as in of the squads and stuff. So they're not gonna want to be bit part players, they're gonna want to be players that want to play, and players that that deserve to start and stuff. So obviously looking at the players that have signed on, you got Ethan, you got Miles, you got obviously the two big boys at the back. Um, I think obviously Saka hopefully to come. Like I said, there's a lot of players here, man. But then I'm hoping that we have notoriously been poor sellers, and
Yep.
I'm hoping that because of like like as in the stuff kind of going on around here and the players, like as in that these are quality players. I mean, like Ben White on his day, like as in is a very quality player, but there might not be a space for him in this club. Like that. That's just being for real. So how much do you think you can get for a player like that? Someone who still has a lot to offer. And I think that's kind of the situation that we're in. Like I said, I think again, there's going to be players that don't want to be bit part players. They want to play. They want to contribute. I think at the moment, like as in our squad's probably overcooked, but then it's like we have two players in each position. I was listening to Arteta's podcast, Arteta's press conference. I think he was asked a question. Do like you have equal amount of right-footed players to left-footed players? Did you know that? You can literally make a
That's
team
crazy.
of right-footed players versus a team of left-footed players at Arsenal.
That is crazy. When you think about the
Like
chances of someone even
it's
being left
incredible,
foot,
man.
yeah,
Incredible, man. So
yeah.
so 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 yeah, like when you think about it, like as in the squad depth is off the charts, man. So it's one of those. It's like, look, man. I mean, in a perfect world, you can keep all of these players, everyone stays happy, and you go win the league. But like reality doesn't work like that. Players get play bonuses and stuff along those lines. So if they're not playing, that they're not earning, like as in those game bonuses. So at the end of the day, man, like as in you can only keep the squad happy as much as you can. You just got to do what you got to do. I think your second question, if we have any holes in the squad, I think at the moment it's hard to see any, man. I probably would lean to the left side of the team. Again, obviously, it's not a case of the quantity, because we do have Trossard who can play there. We do have Martinelli who can play there. Eze has shown he can play there. Madueke has shown he can play there. But I think we're probably lacking in the quality, because for me, I still kind of see Eze as a central player, who can obviously play on the left, but I still see him as a central player. And then obviously you're looking at you're looking at Martinelli and Trossard, like as in how they run their race. Like as in, I think we can get much better. Someone to the level of a Bukayo Saka on the left hand side. So that's probably what I would say. I don't know what you think of that one.
It's I think it's just it made me laugh a little bit because yeah, you think about I guess us bringing in Eze and just the fact that the left wing was such a big kind of discussion and talking point this season. To still be like, yeah, man, we could have some more quality there. But again, I think maybe it's a lot of hope, but again, man, I will see how he does, but I'm still hoping that maybe like one of where like Eze with the right winger or Madueke and that, so like someone can kind of grab that kind of position like over these next few games as players also return from injury, and we also get to see, I guess maybe the options in that left wing position kind of play out a bit more than we kind of had the opportunity to so far because of the injuries. That's what I'm hoping for anyway. But yeah, no, it will be disappointing anyway to kind of I guess get to the end of it. And we're still like, yeah, we still need to go get a left winger. But again, that's football. Like I think that's why yeah, it's interesting to see like who kind of survives this kind of what you'd have to think has to be like a Colin in the summer. Like it has to be because so many players are going to be unhappy by the end of it. I mean, right now we're still early, and maybe obviously you never want injuries, but injuries also kind of make the manager's job a bit easier because the conversations aren't as difficult. But like you say, when Madueke and Odegaard and all these players are now coming back to the squad now, it's like who is now not even making the match squad? Like, how do you then deal with that element of it? So I think maybe just like the perfect way to kind of just like wrap all of this up then also is just like to kind of bring back the kind of the question right at the start of the stream is that, do you feel like, that being said, and the fact that we're never going to have a squad this big probably ever again, or maybe for a very long time, it adds the pressure where like this has to really be the, if there's going to be any year where Arteta's finally able to kind of get over the line and get a big major trophy, whether it's the Premier League or the Champions League, it's like, if you don't do it in this season, with just like you kind of being in this circumstance, then it's like you start to really, really have doubts about you ever going to do it. Like, how, where do you, what's your kind of, I guess, take on that one, to kind of answer the question of the title of the show, which is like, are Arsenal finally good enough to kind of get over the line and win a major trophy under Arteta?
Yeah, man. Like at the end of the day, you have to look at what we're able to do, you know, and the players that we have at our disposal, man. I think that there's a term, horses for courses. I think we're in that ballpark at the moment, man. Where we have, like I said, a lot of players left, right, and center. Different profiles, different keys, for different locks, in a sense. Which is why I think that last season we were decimated, man. We were decimated with injuries. And Arteta has obviously kind of taken it on board and gone and signed 8 players, and put us in a position where if we do have injuries in certain positions, you know, we're covered. Funny enough, it's realistically, if Gyökeres was to get injured, like that at the moment, that would probably be the one position where would kind of be in trouble. But other than that, like I said, we're covered in all facets, man. So it's one of those. It's like, look, he has the tools at his disposal, and I think just to go back to what I said at the beginning, I think Arteta, he's a very, very good manager, probably one of the best in the world. But whether he can do it here and whether he can get over the line here is yet to be to materialize, man. So at the end of the day, we have to see if he's able to obviously get it right, and he has been through this before, in 23-24, he went on a crazy run, just lost the league by 2 points. So he knows the run in now. He has the players. Yeah, he has the players that are gonna look after him like as in when the crunch time comes. When we're in the let's say the semi-final of the EFL Cup, like as in you have the squad to obviously move about things, because then you've got a tough away game at Aston Villa, and then you got a Champions League, quarter final, versus a Bayern Munich, for example, like as in now you've got the players and players that are competent and capable enough, to obviously to go through. But I think I said it on a different on a different stream. Right now, we're still the pretenders, man. We're still we still don't command the respect because we haven't done it yet. And that's why Arteta runs into all of these, these issues and kind of the discourse, because people haven't seen him go all the way. So I think he has a squad. I think he has the players, but again, it's the players that have to to do what they need to do. But I think they are I think they are good enough to win. It's just that they have to show it on the pitch.
No, no, beautifully said, Abdul, man. Thank you very much for that, man. I needed the confidence, because, like you say, man, we've been burnt so many times at this stage where you just feel like, what's going to be the narrative of this season? But yeah, I think to kind of just wrap it up on my side, yeah, I think I echo your words completely. I think now it's at the point now where we've already kind of seen it with the Saka going down and Odegaard going down and seasons of the past. If that had happened, our season probably be written off already, because we wouldn't have had the players to kind of keep us afloat in those circumstances. But we have this season and we're still up there. So now on Arteta, like you say, like these cup games too, where there's no reason why the squad isn't deep enough for you to take every single competition serious and try to win every single cup. So yeah, man, I feel like this is definitely gonna be a massive year for him if we don't get over the line. Because yeah, I think as a manager, you can't ask for much more than he's been given. So if you can't win with this squad, and next summer we're probably going to lose quite a lot of players, then again, I think he's not going to go nowhere. But I think that's just when, as a fan base, just the belief just starts just dwindling, where we just stop believing that it's actually going to happen. So I think this is a year where I think I'm starting to slowly become more and more confident when I look at our rivals and I look at what we have at our disposal. So yeah, man. Hopefully, for our sake, obviously as Arsenal fans, we get over the line. But yeah, bro. But Abdul, it's been great talking, man. It's been nice to speak to someone that actually wants the best for my club. Because Major, I love speaking to him on the stream sometimes, and he smiles in my face. But I know that he only smiles because we have to kind of save him from a Liverpool or Man City title. That's the only reason he smiles. Otherwise, he wouldn't smile in my face, man. So I appreciate you for coming
That's
on,
for
man, and
sure,
having
man.
a great conversation. I hope you
Nah,
enjoyed being a part
it's
of it.
been a nah for sure. It's been a long time coming, and yeah, nah, definitely good to talk Arsenal for over 2 hours, man.
Yeah.
So it's always good to have some time about our club, man. But yeah, no, honestly, appreciate you having me on. It's an honor to hop on. Hopefully it's not the last time. But yeah, no, good chat.
Nah, I appreciate it, man. And yeah, and to everyone who's watching, yeah, if you're still here, if you watch something like Major would say a minute, an hour, or 2.5 hours, and some of us speak about Arsenal, then we appreciate you kind of giving your time. And yeah, hopefully it's been an entertaining discourse. And yeah, whether you agree, disagree, yeah, please feel free to kind of comment below, reach out to us separately. And yeah, man, appreciate the support as always, man. But Abdul, until next time, there'll definitely be another one. So thank you for coming on, brother.